We like a good free resource, don't we? It's been working so far.
Yes. Hello. Hello. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Cool.
We're good. We're recording.
Can I
have
mention
forms.
Yeah.
right off the bat
No.
before we jump in, the album artwork for TOTO 4, incredible.
That's all Jeff's stuff.
Yeah, because he's a painter, right?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
an
He's an
artist.
artist.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His goal was to
Moving
become
right
an
into it.
artist.
Yeah,
But-
he said in that interview I sent that art was his first love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he was the one that wanted the swords on everything. He's like,
Yeah.
that's why Hydra has, them
The guy
standing
with
there,
the
and there's
sword.
a sword still
Yep.
there. That's
Guy
all,
with the
I guess,
sword.
Jeff.
Kind of a fantasy thing going on.
Stu-
I love
yeah,
it.
that's all Jeff wanted. It's like weird to me, but
I
have
just
you
think
looked
it's-
at the
it's
lyrics
great.
for Georgie Porgy and for
Yeah.
Saint George and the Dragon in the first album.
Yeah, they're like leaning into the whole
Freaky
thing.
Page is a nerd. He's
well,
a
Georgie
closet sci-fi
Porgy, he
nerd.
wrote that because he was challenging himself to write songs from
Yeah.
anything that he could find.
100.
And his kid's book was sitting there, and he
Oh,
opened
see,
it,
that's pretty cool.
and it came from
Yeah.
Georgie Porgy,
Okay.
Just
Pumpkin
find
Pie or
inspiration
whatever.
anywhere. Yeah.
But then they did the soundtrack for Dune. I mean,
Right,
come
right,
on.
right.
They
Yeah,
love
well, that was
sci-fi.
primarily Page and his dad.
Yeah.
So the other guys were
Marty.
there doing stuff like
Mhm.
playing, but
And then Lukather later brings in his dad.
yeah,
I just think it's so funny,
And it's
especially
terrible.
the cover for TOTO 4 being almost like an ethos for the album, which is like, we're going to do what we did the first time, but bigger.
But and better. Yeah.
More.
More cocaine.
yeah, but it was do it or get off the pot.
Yeah,
basically.
we're gonna get
yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, either you guys come up with something really good, or you're not going to make any more
Yeah,
albums.
we're jumping right into it. This is
Yeah.
awesome. You go ahead and introduce the pod.
Yeah, so this
Scotty.
is Your Dad's Record Collection, an 80s album retrospective where we break down classic 80s records one episode at a time.
And as you can guess, this one's about Toto, the album 4,
Yeah, TOTO 4.
the red album cover with the sword on it. He wants to be covered with the
I
white
see.
blanket.
Oh,
He's telling you, he's looking with the big.
why
the
doesn't
big
he get
eyes.
on the heating pad then?
He's kind of on.
well,
it.
his little toes are on the heating
Gooses
pad.
are
Those are the coldest part of
Oh,
him.
okay.
unofficial third host.
Unofficial mascot.
Yeah, he's
there. So
he's
now
here
he's happy.
for every
He's
episode.
gonna pass out for the next hour and a half,
Yeah.
and
Nice.
then interrupt us. And
He'll get up and slap his ears around for
Yeah.
a while.
I
and this
like it.
third voice you're hearing, if you're wondering, is Eddie Ramirez, bass player extraordinaire, an icon like the sword in Toto of the Spokane music scene.
that everybody wonders, why is that sword there?
Why?
Why?
Well, it's a T. You know,
It's a fixture.
Oh, true,
and
true.
it represents. Oh, I read into it. It does represent things. One is the T. Two, it's a double-edged sword, so it represents their versatility in music. And then I forget the rest, but there's a bunch of different
Wow.
things. Yeah,
You guys know way more than I never knew that.
it's just tidbits you read
That's
about
awesome.
it. Yeah,
Which is
I
always
have a ton of notes too, and
it's so funny with things like that too, because half the time it'll be something that somebody asked them and then they made it up and on
Yeah.
the spot, and then
Yep.
it became part of the lore.
Mhm.
That's my favorite with bands when
they
somebody will
always
ask
try to
them
play
questions
it
like
off
that.
too. Like
Oh,
it's-
yeah.
Like
I thought
that
about
interview
this
I sent you,
real
it's
deep
like
from
he
the beginning.
tries to play it off like they're not nerds, and he's like,
Mhm.
"You guys are total nerds. Just
Yeah.
accept it." You know?
Yeah,
Yep.
huge.
But, well, Eddie, I was thinking, like, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
This is always awkward to be like,
Yeah.
tell your life story in like 30 seconds or
Yeah.
less. Quick, go.
Give us the flyover. Go.
I was born, and here I am today.
I was born.
and here
blink.
I am.
I wanted to quote
From
Was
the
it The
fingers.
Jerk with Steve Martin?
He's born
The
a
movie.
poor black child.
Yeah.
No, born in here, Washington State. Have moved around quite a bit.
Mhm.
Played music for pretty much my entire life.
How did you? So I met you through your brother Johnny
Mm-hmm.
and AJ, Johnny's kid who's a member of the band and gonna be on the pod. And
Yes.
how did you get the bass?
So my dad, I'll make a long story short, was a preacher that really wanted to have good music when he would go to preach places. And he basically said that he was asking God to send him musicians that would travel with him, and that he felt like he heard a voice in his heart, in his head, that said, well, I've given you 3 sons. Why don't you put them to work?
There you go.
So then he went out and bought a bunch of used gear.
Oh, cool.
And when we came home from school that day, there was all this gear in the living room. At that point, Johnny, my oldest brother, was the only one that played music.
Yeah.
He played guitar.
Was your dad a musician?
No, he knew like 3 or 4 chords.
Okay.
Terrible timing, just like had no real timing. My
Interesting.
mom was the true musician of the family.
there
She
it
was a singer. She had a great ear. She
Cool.
knew when the guitar was out of tune, which string it was.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't play any instruments, but she had such a great ear that she always knew
Something's off.
Yeah.
who was
There it
off
is.
and
Yeah,
could
that
point it
fixes
out
it.
too.
Wow.
You know, there's some of us that
That's
say
cool.
something's not right, but we
Yeah.
can't tell what it is.
Yeah.
She'd be like, I think it's that string right there. And you'd hit it and find
enough.
some way
Yeah.
of tuning it. Yeah.
Sure enough, yeah, on it.
Yeah, so she was a true musician. So Johnny was the only one that playing. My other older brother, Ruben, he's passed away. But he basically took the bass, and I sat at the drums the very first time we did anything. And that, just we didn't know how to play. So,
Yeah.
we're just making sounds. And he didn't like the bass. And I'm like, I don't really like the drums. So we traded.
Yeah.
And that's how it stayed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just stuck that way. Funny story though. Ruben was left-handed.
And he had
so-
to play right-handed?
Yeah, and
they made it.
one, the first day it was all set up from my dad's friend that he was a musician and he was going to give us pointers, right? So he set up all the gear because we didn't even know how to set it up. But Ruben sits down and he's trying to play it. And so the next morning when we go into the room, the drums are set up opposite. For left hand, he just felt like it would be easier for him to do that. And because we didn't know anything about that, Johnny and me are looking at the drum set and like,
That looks wrong, man.
That looks so weird, dude. Put it back. And we forced him
Yeah,
to.
dude, you're gonna freak people
yeah,
out.
I know. We forced him to learn how to play the other way. And so he always
Yeah.
struggled,
That's so funny. Scotty's left-handed too, though, and plays right-handed.
Yeah,
Isn't
Yeah.
that wild?
yeah,
I never knew that.
yeah. I always have said too that that was the instrument I had to learn on was they were all right-handed,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
seemed to me to just be like guitar was very ambidextrous, so I was like,
Yeah.
my left hand's doing the harder stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
I don't know. It
crazy.
never
That's
was
true,
like weird to
yeah.
me. Yeah.
Maybe we're all left-handed. And
See.
people
No, you're
just-
not. Trust me.
Okay, oh, thanks.
Wow.
And we just don't know it, but that's
Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
that too from drummers. It's like, I'm right-handed and,
on the left hand
Yeah.
doing all the work.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah, it was a weird thing. Like, I mean, just a weird aside, but like even growing up with any kind of like sports or anything, I had a PE teacher that like wouldn't let me play left-handed, like tennis or like throw a ball or whatever. It was like, it was either, I don't think it was a prejudice thing either. I think he just didn't know how to teach it that way because
Yeah.
he was right-handed. So it's like,
Yeah.
no, hold it in the other hand. You know?
Yeah.
So that's how I learned to do like a lot of that stuff.
I
So
feel like that, like a southpaw boxer, it gives you like a little bit of an edge. Or
Yeah.
Like, is there left-handed pitchers in baseball
yeah,
where
yeah.
it's better?
well, the matchups in
It throws
baseball are
people off.
always like, they try to strategize like,
Yeah.
left-handed, right-handed,
It's
like
so
pitchers
silly.
versus batters
Yeah.
Yep.
because there's an advantage there, like depending on the matchup. So
Yeah. That's
Crazy.
it gets kind of wild. Yeah.
Well, so our dads were also, my dad is a musician in a family band that traveled around with an evangelical preacher.
Yep.
Scotty's dad did the same thing when he was a kid. So we all
Crazy.
have the same
I
kind
know.
of background. It's kind
Yeah.
of crazy.
Same pedigree.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we didn't really discover that until we first were sitting down to talk about like the background for doing this podcast, and then it was weird how many things overlapped in that story, and then
Yep.
know like several other people in this community and musicians that have like the exact same background.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So was there a moment, Eddie, where you were like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life kind of thing? Or was it always just there and you never had a moment?
Yeah,
or?
it was always there. Like I couldn't see anything different.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the first time I got my job, a real job,
Yeah.
quote
Quote
unquote,
unquote. Yeah.
I think I was 22 or 23.
Yeah.
Before that, I had worked like small jobs as a teenager,
Sure.
just on and off. But
Yeah.
that was just until we went on the road again.
Yeah.
It was like, that's
Yep.
You feel the
what we
time doing
always did,
something
yeah.
else, and then knowing the road was
we
always
were
coming
always, yeah. And as teenagers, young adults, we were touring all the time, playing all the time. And so I remember the first time I had a real job, quote unquote. I think the biggest gut wrenching like moments were if I thought that next week I'm going to be at that same place, that would tear me up. Like I couldn't think that way.
Like 2 shows in a row kind of thing?
No, like working. Like if I was like when I stopped playing music full time and got an actual job, what killed me actually almost gave me ulcers is if I thought I am going to be in that same place next week, which my life had never been that way. It'd always be, we're going to be in a different town.
It felt like
in a different
getting
city.
locked down all of a sudden.
All of a sudden, where you're going to be, and it's the same place you are right now. It was weird. I remember just struggling with that.
Growing up with a life on the road.
Yes.
That's what you
Yep, that's what I
as
knew.
well.
I always, that's where I was. And so part of, in my quick story, you think that is over and done with, like music is kind of the thing that's gone. And as a matter of fact, it didn't. It just kept going, except it just looked different. I'd still do fly dates. I'd still do small regional tours. I still played every week. It just didn't, it wasn't
It
the
just
same.
kept going.
Yeah. It wasn't, touring full time is the only
Was it
difference.
with other people and stuff?
Yeah, just different people.
Cool.
And
Not
working
just your
for,
dad.
working for my church and also playing for different artists that were coming through or needed somebody to fill in. And
I was just going to say, and through that, like you've built, I feel like quite the base of like contacts that are, keeping you pretty, Did you like that? I did that for both of you. Keeping
There's
you
going to be
like,
a lot of
pretty
that in
consistent,
this episode.
busy with like some of these. I mean, it's always cool, I think, when you fall in with just the right group of people, and then like they're gonna keep calling you because the chemistry works. They like how you what you add to the crew, and like who are 2 or 3 of the people you're playing with consistently right now?
Primarily Blake is probably Blake Brayley. I play with him.
Bork Barley.
Yeah, a lot. We're working on his next album too, and then just everything else is kind of like side gigs. I play with a young lady named Sydney Dale, where she's starting to do some cool
super
stuff.
talented.
It's not Dale.
I guess it could
She
be
needs
Dale.
to put just the thing on the E so
dash
that nobody
on the
knows
E.
what it is. It Dale?
Yeah.
Dale?
These are
Daley?
Ryan's like marketing suggestions for branding for
Yep,
artists.
we'll have to present that to her.
Get a
Just
little more
it's just
exotic.
in my brain. There's just that little question mark at the end, like what? Right? Anyways,
Sure. Yeah.
Another band.
these are the thoughts I have when I'm graphic designing, and you're sitting with a word like off. And you're just and you're like trying to like kern it right and like space the words right, and it's just like this. How is this word even a word? Is this how do I spell it right? And you start questioning your very like existence because you have no mariners. How does that what is that
And then you just shrink it by like a little bit, and you're like, oh no, now it's fine.
And you spend like hours with a word. So, anyways, it's just so funny. And so
That's
now
true.
my brain just thinks about that.
Yeah.
It just pops up.
I kind of forgot about that you had that whole side of you too.
Yeah, it's weird.
Crazy.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you how to work Photoshop now. It's so interesting. I did have a question. Was there a moment where, because you started out in church and you started out in all of that spiritual Christian side of things, was there a moment where you like listened to the radio and you were like, oh, there's a whole nother world out there.
Sure.
That's like
And that, I mean, and for how I grew
real
up.
music.
Yeah, well, I mean,
quotes.
see, and that's, I think, where we would differ because I didn't, growing up was more Spanish,
Oh, for sure.
So it was
Yeah.
norteños and, Tejano music, or it was boleros and baladas, and so it's kind of romantic styles and all that stuff. So there was all of that was Christian based music. So it's not like, it's kind of hard to say, oh, this is like, ooh, that's like, whoa, you know what I mean? Because now we're talking culturally different. So there are those same styles of music that were secular or they were Christian, but they all sounded, it was a norteño is a norteño, you know what I mean? A cumbia is a cumbia,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? That doesn't change.
Yeah.
But in more of the caucus-filled styles of music, the Caucasian,
You could say gringos. It's cool.
white,
Yeah, there you go.
more stuff. Then
cool
there's
with
you guys. There was a big divide
There is.
between
It's so weird. Yeah.
like a hymn or even
is
just
why I wanted-
traditional,
Yeah.
Christian music
Yeah.
compared to Led Zeppelin, or
Yeah.
you know
Well,
what I mean?
that's and I asked that because my dad has a story when we get the Def Leppard where he heard Def Leppard for the first time when he was a kid,
and he loved it.
and it was like blew his It was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
this is the best thing I've
Well, we
ever heard in
definitely
the
had
whole-"
that, like
Okay.
with rock
Yeah.
in general.
Okay.
So it wasn't like church or unchurched. It was like a genre that we'd never really
Okay.
heard before.
explained,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Explored.
Yeah, because now it's just like it's culturally different. It's almost like the first time that somebody has spicy Mexican food that's never had it. And just all of a sudden it's like, whoa, where did this come from? Like, what
Yeah.
is this? This is, whoa,
Yeah.
Of course that, it's so popular that really
Yeah.
doesn't happen a lot. But
Yeah.
but it's kind of the same thing where that music was what it was. It's its own kind of thing. So the first time we heard rock, yes, absolutely. And the first time Christian rock started showing up, that was blowing our minds too. It was like, what? Who is that?
We should do an episode on Stryper.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or Petra,
Petra, for
some
sure.
of the
Yeah.
Larry
Yeah,
Norman,
yeah.
because I go back
They were
way
big.
back to
Yeah.
Randy Stonehill and Larry Norman and all
Yeah.
those guys.
I met Randy Stonehill one time.
Yeah,
Interesting guy.
very cool.
Yeah. Well, just, like,
Spill the tea. Come on.
I mean, it was part of like this. My dad for a little while worked for kind of a Christian like artist development agency.
Okay.
So like not exactly a record label, but like trying to help kind of people that were moving in the direction of like being an artist or a songwriter kind of like find pathways to, like to kind of grow. And of course, like at that time, like I was trying to kind of figure out if that was the path that I was going to take, kind of an on-ramp into that. But anyway, like they hosted this workshop with a couple of like Christian songwriters, and Randy Stonehill was one of them. And
Very cool.
just kind of a funny thing to like
Yeah.
meet somebody who had been so sort of, instrumental to like that
Yeah.
period of time and like kind of building the scaffolding that then
Yeah.
all other sort of like all of that music
Yeah.
kind of was built off of,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I remember I got to play with Brian Duncan, and he was part of he started off with an
You
old
saw
Christian
my face.
Christian band,
Who's that?
Yeah.
I know that name.
I'm trying to remember what that original band was
I
called
can look it up.
that they were part of. Man, they had such great material, and then he went and started doing solo stuff. But he had this song called "Love You With My Life." That was like the bucket list. When we played that song at his show, I was like, I can check that off my bucket list.
Yeah,
Sweet Comfort Band?
Sweet Comfort Band.
okay?
I
Okay.
loved Sweet Comfort Band, and his voice is so unique and so good. Where was I going with that? I was just trying to think of.
I knew all of these names because they were sort of like the, contemporaries of like, because my dad at the time was like on that trajectory of like, kind of in the Christian music, contemporary Christian music, like artist track, late 80s through like the mid 90s basically was doing that. And so, you'd have guys like, there's a guy named Michael English that he, would do gigs with. And,
Yeah, I've heard of
and then, like we would just hear all of these albums all the time. I told Ryan on the one of the episodes we recorded recently, my dad had a Christian radio show that he hosted for a while. Huh. So we'd get like the samplers from the record label of all the songs, so that he could go through them and Forefront and whatever else.
Records.
Yeah. So he'd pick the songs and put them on his radio show, and so like all of those names are super familiar, which is it's just funny to look back at that, and see, I don't know, where everybody ends up in their journey.
Yeah. Where's the transit like? Were you listening to all this Christian music at the same time you were listening to, like?
So do
we call it secular music?
Yeah, let's just call it secular music. Okay, so we know we're talking about something outside of that. So
clean delineation.
Yeah. Yes. So my first introduction to anything real secular that I remember. Okay, I'm sure I was exposed somehow was Elvis. My mom was a huge Elvis fan.
Sure.
Of course, Elvis put out Christian albums too, so she would buy those. But then she would also buy
while on cocaine.
Yeah, so
heroin pills,
she would buy the live records and all that stuff. And so I remember listening to the song called "Let Us Pray," and the bass opened it up. It was just the whole song opens just with this bass line, going.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, "Whoa, that's so cool!" And I sat down with the record player and would just drop the needle and try and figure it out and just work on it. But that was probably the first time I remember really hearing something that wasn't our regular stuff and actually getting to absorb it now.
Yeah.
It's not just because we used
to be an impact on you.
Yeah, because
then you're doing those fills and you're
trying to do those
when
fills.
You're playing.
Yeah, it's like actually influencing
absolutely
the music you're making.
Yep, absolutely. Because I remember we would go. My mom would always stack up records at night, and they were all just Spanish, Christian stuff, and we'd go to sleep listening to the records, and they just stop, until
you were
asleep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I remember after I heard that "Let Us Pray" song, that Elvis song, that I was like, man, that's so cool. That bass is just doing stuff that's crazy cool. And I remember thinking, my mom was singing one time, and we're doing traditional boom, 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 just norteños type stuff.
The ones and fives.
Yep.
And
so then I remember thinking, and we called them pasadas, which would be a riff, is what we would kind of, a pasada is when you make a little bridge from
Gotcha.
That little thing is called a pasada, which is a little riff, a little run, you know what I mean?
Yeah, riff, run.
And I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to see if I can do a pasada the whole song from the beginning without stopping.
We're going to connect the whole thing.
The whole thing. And I remember starting, and my mom's facing the crowd singing it, and I'm like, she's going. And then she just gives me the side eye, and I knew, and I just went back to the
too far.
Too much.
Boom, boom. But that was the first inspiration to something crazy cool like that, know. And I also remember, here's where I admire my brother Johnny. He's got like the memory of an elephant, I guess, would be, or a crow, or whatever. It has great memories. Yeah, because he worked with him. He tends to remember. Yeah. But he has these memories of everything that happened. Like he remembers all these events and dates and when this happened and all that. Like mine's so spotty. I'm like, just, like I jumped from that to hearing I would share a room with my brother Ruben, and he was probably the one that was most into secular music. He would take my mom would buy Christian rock, try and get us to, try and get him. Yeah. Because me and Johnny were, we didn't have a problem.
Sure.
Ruben had the problem. So she would get him, she'd look for Christian rock, she'd get it for him, and he'd listen to him. It's like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And then he'd take apart the tapes because they had like little screws on the corners. Take it off and then put AC/DC or whoever in that case.
That's incredible.
So then when he'd be listening in his little headphone things,
that's okay, Mom.
Mom would ask him, "What you listening to?" "Oh, it's Petra." And he'd take it out and show her, "It's Petra." "Oh, okay," but it wasn't.
It's Back in Black or something.
Yeah, he put these other tapes in there.
That's amazing.
But we would share a room,
man.
And back then,
that's intense.
Back then, the Walkmans, had these orange little headphones that would just kind of just sit
Yes.
And no, I mean, everybody could hear this high end, everything. So we shared a room and he would sleep with music. And I remember hearing Breakfast in America.
Supertramp.
Yeah, Supertramp. And just laying in the
Record
bed
I
next to
talk
him,
about,
just
but
hearing
it's-
that.
That's my favorite album cover.
Oh, that's such an amazing record.
The album design for that as a graphic design.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
In the spirit of Jeff Porcaro, that's my
Yeah, the packaging is really cool.
That is my
Yeah, the lady
the
holding
sword.
the city.
she's the Statue of Liberty, and it's all breakfast items and stuff.
Yeah.
And
also Ghost in the Machine by the Police. And so, and I'm just laying, in bed, and I could hear just the top end of all of this stuff. He also would listen to another guy that I never really, Ian Hunter. I never really found much of him. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about it now, which I don't think I've thought of Ian Hunter until right now.
Just bringing
but
up
he had this song that said, I think it was Betty. Betty says this town is dying just to be like me.
Huh.
Yeah, I remember that line, but that's all I really.
He was the lead vocalist of Mott the Hoople.
Oh, Mott the Hoople. Okay.
don't
Okay.
even-
It's
I've
like
never heard of
it's like a
Mott the Hoople.
T-Rex band from England,
Oh,
like kind
interesting.
of prog rock.
Wow.
I think English.
What year was that?
69 to 74.
Okay.
And it's had reunions then, but it's
Interesting.
kind of it's hard glam rock kind of, a little bit of hippie.
But
yeah. Anyways.
those were all things that I remember hearing, and just getting older and starting to really want to listen to more of that stuff,
More stuff.
and get away from the Spanish traditional stuff.
So when did Toto? See that segue?
That was really good.
Boom, nailed it. When did Toto enter your life? In that time period, probably.
Yeah, and I had heard, because in Texas we've lived in quite a few different places, but in Texas, out of the 4 different places or 5 different places we lived there, during one of those, there was a radio station that I would listen to. And this was, my parents, we were already teenagers now, and our parents are starting to still try and hold a tight grip on us, but as most parents do, are, just
You gotta
are
pick your
tired.
battles. Yeah.
They're tired, so they're trying to pick battles. And so one of them is not what we're listening to as much. Sometimes it'd be like, okay, turn that garbage off already.
Sure.
But we'd be able to listen to some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But in Texas, the DJs there were, back then they could pick what songs they wanted to play.
Yeah.
The record companies would suggest this is the single.
And as I found out during this, they'd pay them.
Oh yeah,
They
payola,
pay-
and payola. I don't know if that was already illegal by then, because I
Yeah.
know in the 50s that was big. I
Yeah.
don't know what was happening. I'm sure it was still happening. Maybe it looked different.
Yeah.
DJs could still pick what songs they wanted to play. So Rosanna, it was on 4, because I had already heard 99, woo, and I thought that was cool. I didn't know that was Toto or anything. I
We're
just
gonna get
knew that was
copyrighted so
I knew
hard
that was a cool
for
song.
that little
Keep it
bit.
short. Keep those clips short.
Yeah.
I'll like I did. I'll bleep it out.
Yeah.
Tabitha.
Yeah. And I
Hold
knew-
the Line. Had you heard Hold the Line at that point?
At that point, I don't recall
Okay.
hearing. I just remember 99 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, that's when Toto 4 had come out. But the song,
82-ish. Yeah.
yeah, but
April
the,
'82.
Yeah.
yeah, but the song that DJ was playing, the 2 songs that he played the most on this station was Make Believe. Why don't we
Okay.
make believe? Is I Won't Hold You Back on 4?
Yes.
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 Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I Won't Hold You Back. It was
Yeah.
those 2 songs.
Interesting.
So the one that I remember hearing the most was that piano for Make Believe. That is etched into my brain.
Yeah.
Even though Rosanna was the single for that record, it was the
Yeah.
first single they put out. This person that was
Didn't- was
DJing
like,
was like,
They were
I
doing
like
that
this
one.
song and I'm going to play this song. You know?
Yeah.
So like the first
That's
one that
cool.
I remember really thinking was such a great song from Toto was Make Believe.
Interesting.
And
Which
I
is
love
so
the harmony
fun.
thing.
Yeah, the harmonies are really cool, and that piano riff you can tell is Page kind of doing the Page thing, which is
Yeah.
like, hey, remember Hold the Line? Like here's a
Yeah.
very similar rhythm, but like well, we can do lots of things.
Yeah.
Major keys, we can
Yeah.
can jam in like that. is maybe we talked a lot in our like Billy Joel episode about how kind of early 80s is this strange period where you have a lot of these bands sort of like throwing back to earlier rock and roll and like doo-wop and like those kinds of things are starting to come in a little bit, like the nostalgia for it. You don't hear much of it at all on like Toto's stuff in this period of time, but that song, like that piano part, is probably the closest it gets to a little bit of throwback to like old rock and roll kind of sounds.
We could do rock and roll too.
Yeah.
There's like punk bands and post-punk and even new wave was coming out, and so Billy Joel, Toto, a lot of other bands. What were we saying? Anyway, other bands were like trying to.
Yeah, like we can still do.
We could do that too.
But I think it's cool actually that
still rock and roll to me.
What you hear exactly like that you had the guys that I think who had kind of been like doing this like thing for a long time, and like what rock and roll had been to them when they come back and like, well, we want to get back to like to what rock is. That's what they go to is like, you know.
A few people did that in the 80s, I want to say. I remember there
for sure. We were talking about how like Billy Joel did it, Queen did it, like, you know, it starts to like, and the funniest part is that every single one of those like songs for those charts huge, you know, big hits.
It'd be cool to be able to look up demographics. I don't think they had
who's
that
pushing those songs.
I don't think they
the,
had
to
that,
the top.
Back then.
They may have.
Yeah.
I was just trying to
I'd probably have to Google it. But
where it's
do
at.
the deep dive into Google.
So can I read you guys a quote?
I have to go get Eddie's Snapple before it explodes in the fridge.
It's funny to look at, like, I was reading this Rolling Stone article about Toto when they were kind of doing their reunion tour that was in, let's see, when was this article posted? This was like, this was 2020, and this was like right after they did like a 40th anniversary tour in like 2018, 2019.
Yep.
And it was like good, but also kind of a disaster because like David Paich had to pull out because of health issues, and then there was this lawsuit with the like Jeff Porcaro's like wife, and you know, so this, you know, this article that they're talking about like history of this band, and they like, this is a Rolling Stone article, and famously they, you know, them and Rolling Stone were like at each other's throats, like, you know, all through their 80s.
And you heard the story
time.
Behind that one, right?
Well, I know they turned down the cover because they were like,
though?
no.
Because when they won all the Grammys and stuff, they said, somebody at Rolling Stone said that Toto wasn't a real rock band, and if they were a rock band, they were a rock band that was wearing velvet suits or something.
It was the quote. The literal quote is they sound as real as a Velveeta orange colored leisure suit, like polyester leisure suit, which is just incredible. And
that's funny.
Rolling Stone hated them, which is just really, because, you know, this is also, I feel like it's interesting to look at the, like, this is still the period of time where like you've got serious music journalism, you know, where it's like Rolling Stone still their opinion held a lot of weight, you know. And so the quote that they had, this was in their like early review of their first album. Rolling Stone says, Toto lacks at least two elements crucial to good rock bands, a singer and a writer, which I think is really funny. And then he like goes on to kind of slam like Bobby Kimball as the singer, which I'll get into later, but I think he's super underrated as a vocalist.
Oh, sure.
And but the quote goes on, he says, Paich is chief songwriter, but most of his tunes are excuses for back-to-back instrumental solos. Toto's a band of skilled craftsmen without a mesmerizing mastermind, prose, but no poetry.
Is that the first one or the second one?
This is the like review of the debut. He had to
of the first Toto.
This writer had
of
to be
Toto 1?
Yes. Had to be patting himself on the back for that line. Prose, but no poetry.
Did you look him up?
Like,
his name is Kevin G something.
Yeah.
He's the same writer that when Toto won all the Grammys for Toto 4.
Yes.
Says that it lacked the energy and the mystique of the first one.
And depth. He was like,
depth of the
which
first
is funny,
Toto.
Right?
And so in Lukather's book, he's like, so which is it?
Yeah.
So did you like the first one or did you not like the first one? And you don't like this, you just hate us. Yeah. We should do a critics episode, Scotty.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because I got into the weeds on this. And there's I'm trying to figure that thing with Lukather I was just talking about, and the critics just not liking. Rolling Stones magazine just hated on everybody, pretty much, is what I can understand so far. It's kind of like
we were just saying,
Pitchfork,
like,
where like Pitchfork
Yes.
is like notoriously hard on indie, and so I'm just trying to like get into the critic's mind a little bit and figure out what it is that makes them tick. And I read this insanely cool article that was about minimalism rock versus maximalism rock.
Yes.
Critics love minimalism rock. And if we want to get into it, we can. But you kind of get the idea of like minimalism is like 2 guitars, a bass, and a drum, and then
3 chords, maybe 4.
is the Beatles essentially.
Well,
It's
that's what the
and
punk
then-
movement was trying to get back to, right?
And that's why they love the punk movement. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
there's energy and there's like everything. We love everything about this, and critics hated maximalism rock, which is Sgt. Pepper's and the whatever.
No, they loved Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah,
Sgt.
but
Pepper's huge.
that's
Sure.
the record that
But
started.
I would
like,
say, though,
maximalism rock.
yes,
of like
the difference,
keyboards
though,
and
is like
synths and
60s,
vocal harmonies.
60s psychedelic rock, very, very different animal than what sort of maximalist production becomes.
Sure,
Like 20
the
years
psychedelic
later,
rock is
you know,
is in the maximalism
Yeah,
thing,
but still
Yeah.
doing things at the time that were like pushing what like a studio like band could do for the first
Oh, for
time.
sure.
So you're hearing things that you're like, I didn't even know this was possible.
yeah.
And it eventually does get so bloated that like there was I remember the Ramones talking about in a like behind the scenes interview where they're like, our whole thing was that we hated like bands like Kansas and Foreigner that they felt were these corporate establishment bands, and they're like, we're gonna do the opposite of that, you know. So I think what's funny, and we'll get into this when we kind of get into their history, but like it makes me laugh a little bit that like looking at Toto now, especially this album, you know, which is kind of their like monolith, right? Like
Toto
this
4,
is this is the masterpiece that they kind of have in their catalog. They're basically getting punished critically for like sounding the way that like almost every record sounds now, but they did it all themselves with no digital help, no quantization,
On the
no
tape.
like their
Editing,
precision
yeah.
and perfectionism is all pure musicianship. And it's funny because like even Steve Porcaro says in that, he goes on in that interview saying like, yeah, we never had the guy that like walked around with a notebook in his back pocket like a poet, like truly like that kind of person. And he's like, we could have used it,
Yeah.
somebody that had like a real voice in the band for what we wanted to say.
Yeah.
This record just comes across to me as like extremely earnest, if nothing else.
Sure.
Like not cynical at all. It feels very like these guys just really are having a good time like making the music that they're making.
Yeah.
And like maybe that's part of the problem, is that they don't really have an axe to grind. They don't really have like, a point of view
They're session
necessarily.
musicians,
Yeah,
and
like,
they're just like, we're gonna play the best stuff we can play.
and they're all
Yeah.
like, but like if you look at what charting pop music is today and what usually gets reviewed really well, it's the same exact thing. Just now all of it is literally, and I mean, I'm going to sound like an old man yelling right now, but like
You are, but
it all just, it's all stuff that actually they've just done that digitally and sanded all the edges off and like made it so that but these guys that self-producing this record achieved all of that just because they were that good at what they did,
Yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
I don't know, that there's something to be said about that, like looking back in retrospect, at that period of time. But
And it's funny because most people, just Toto in general, you mentioned the name, and Africa is the only thing they know about that band.
Yes.
And there's so
That's their
many
legacy.
things.
yeah, Toto,
So
and
many.
Africa and Rosanna are the. When you were talking about the other songs that you heard on the album, I'm like, that's so funny, because looking back, the only songs that I knew before we got into this were Rosanna and Africa.
Oh, Rosanna was the
And-
first one that I knew, first Toto
Yeah.
song. And the reason was because when I would hang around with my dad and his musicians in his band,
Yeah.
they would talk about some of the music that they'd have to play or like that they'd listen to with almost like they'd be looking down at it, like with disdain, like, oh. Then when they talk about Toto, it was like those guys are real players, and like then the
Yeah.
drummer would play the groove from Rosanna when he's
Yeah.
sound checking and warming up, like all the time,
Yeah.
And so that was like the mark of like,
Did he
oh,
do
these
it
guys are
two-handed,
real,
or did
know?
he do it one-handed?
He probably did it two-handed.
He's a poser.
He's a poser, and he probably knew it too.
Yeah.
He probably knew like I'm
Yeah.
not there yet. I can't
Yeah.
roll like that with the
Yeah.
one hand. But okay, so just to kind of like this
Keep it
record,
flowing.
right? Self-produced, which is awesome.
Super cool.
Oh yeah, we've talked about how
All their
you know,
albums were self-produced, right?
right?
Yeah.
And having enough, all of them collectively studio experience, like it's kind of incredible that doesn't come out more in a way that like the visions all clash. Like it seems like they work pretty well together, you know, and it's pretty clear that like whoever was like the chief, you know, writer behind whatever song would kind of have like a lot of the direction for where it would go. You
Turn
know, like
Back
Pitch
was produced by Jeff Workman.
Okay.
It's the only one that wasn't produced by them.
Which I don't
And it's
think
the
they
worst-
were happy about that record.
it
Yeah,
was the
so it
worst
makes
album,
sense.
yeah.
Right. It was engineered by Al Schmidt, but it was supposed to be a guy named Don Landy, but he was tied up working with Van Halen, and he called him like the week before and was like, I can't get out of this. And they said they literally ran into Don shooting hoops in between recording
Sunset
sessions.
Sound. Yeah, I had that on my list too. Yeah.
So they were like, hey, what are you doing next week?
Yeah,
They're like,
Don
"You're
Landy was
working with us.
He
was the man.
too.
Well, he worked with them from
the
like
Doobie
for a while
Brothers,
from
Van
then.
Halen.
Cool.
Yeah.
So many
Cool.
engineering.
So, yeah, tidbit about him is that he liked to do everything himself. And the only person that he liked was Peggy McCreary because she was just like, okay, can I get you some food?
Yeah.
Like, can I, like...
I'm going to make sure you're
Yeah, like, I'm
taken
just going to
care of
make
while we're
sure you're
working.
taken
the
care
only
of.
reason they even had Eruption,
Was because Don was
because he
recording.
rolled tape.
Yeah.
He heard him messing around or
just
whatever,
like,
and started rolling tape.
Yeah.
And then when the producer Ted
Templeman. Yeah.
Temple, when he came in, he's like, he goes, already
Oh, yeah.
recording it.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
I got it.
Got it.
Yeah.
We're rolling.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't
Peggy-
miss this.
Yeah.
Peggy also made sure that the tape machines were all running right, and anyways, was making sure that like Don could just have full control of everything. And so she was always in the mixes with that. Got sidetracked on her because when we do the Prince episode, she's going to come up because she ended up right from the Van Halen episodes was Prince's engineer for like 5-6 years.
Yeah.
It was
Pretty
nuts.
important part of making those records.
Which I'm coming. Hey, Scotty, I'm coming around on Prince.
I know you are. We
coming
played
around.
last week. We played an event that I was like, "Can we throw 1999 back in the set?" Ryan only complained
Famously,
in
so far,
jest.
famously, my hot take is that I don't appreciate Prince as much as I should. Apparently.
That's correct. That's the correct way to phrase
well,
that.
the PC way to say that, yeah.
You have not come around in an appropriate way to appreciating the music of Prince.
My hot take is that I feel like he should have a producer instead of having him produce himself.
Well,
Like,
I bet
feel
that
like
would be a lot of people's hot takes, especially combing through his archives, trying to release posthumous things.
Yeah.
Hundreds and
I
hundreds
feel
of unfinished
like
songs.
he needed that person to be like take him up the neck. He needed his Quincy Jones to Michael Jackson. He needed his Ted Templeman. He needed his, to be able to like
We'll
just
get there.
take that next step.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Because I don't ever feel like I'm like, cool, this is neat, but okay. But now I'm coming around because I'm hearing all these stories and his recording process. And my one point I just made is in like the con list, and then there's all these other points.
You're
in
building
the
your
pros,
pros list.
and I'm building the pros. And I'm like, okay,
Pros, but no
okay.
poets.
Yeah.
Ryan, give us. I know you've done a deep dive. Can you give us
Extensive.
just a little flyover of like
dude,
the
I don't know
band
if I can do
from
that.
where they formed to how we get to 1982?
I was
Which,
at
as we already said, this is a
I was
make
at
or break point.
3,800 words, and now it's edited to 2,300 words.
Once again, I think you should be putting the full version in the show notes somewhere so people
Probably
can read it
should,
later because it's good stuff.
Who is Toto? I'll do you one better. Why is Toto? Who is Toto? We'll get this out at the top. First, it's a dog, and it's a toilet brand from Japan. They found out
don't
afterwards.
remind me of that, man.
We'll just bring those out
I want one.
right at the top. And then second,
Could they sponsor this show? And then maybe we could all get one.
I'll get like those really, really nice
Yeah.
bidets and
Please,
heated.
if you're
heated
listening,
seats.
Right.
Have you experienced that, Eddie?
I have
The
not.
Japan seats.
I've heard of them.
it's hard to
Bro.
come back,
There's this thing called post-Japan depression.
and that's a big part
You know,
of it.
the
It's
closest
real.
thing I've gotten is
It's real.
going into the bathroom after some
Right,
big guy
yeah.
who just walked out.
Growing up with
And
brothers
it's
that are
winter time, and you sit in the seats a little warm.
Are you
and
thankful, or are you
You're
like,
not angry.
you're
You're not totally angry about
Yeah.
it.
Sources. We'll go through sources. Steve Lukather's book, The Gospel According to Luke, is really funny, pretty good. Lots of stories. You listened to it or read it, Eddie?
Listen to
Listen to it. Lots of
Watching it-
interesting things
Yeah.
about it.
Interviews with him. I will just say real quick, he seems like obviously he's a goober, but
He's a goober.
he seems somewhat insufferable sometimes. Like one of those guys who will
It's
just
kind of hard.
he'll just say stuff and then be like, "What? It was the '70s," and it was like something he said 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, where you're
Yeah.
like, you can't, no, you can't
Yeah.
keep doing that, man.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, he has a whole like preface to the book, and I apologize, Eddie, if he's a hero of yours, but we kind of make.
I
fun
love
of heroes.
Steve. His sense of humor is weird. He's just kind
He's
of
a kind of a
guy.
weird dude.
and he knows that. You know,
he
knows
like
that.
He has a whole preface where he like disclaimers everything and he apologizes up front.
Yeah, because he knows.
It was the
'Cause he
80s.
knows, and
Yeah.
it's the 80s, and we were doing stuff back then. Or,
Yeah.
you
He
know,
knows
that's,
that.
that's how it goes.
He
We got a
absolutely
little bit
knows
guys
naughty.
will be guys, and we were just all brothers, and
Yeah.
and then
Sure.
you get through it, and he'll say something crazy, and then say all that again. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, dude, like
Yeah.
we know you were into cocaine.
And you know
we
he's
know you were into
probably
women. Just
and
say
you know
it.
that
Yeah.
he's probably played on more records than anybody
Oh, yeah,
knows.
100%.
And he doesn't even know all the songs that
Yeah.
he's played on.
Well,
Yeah.
he
grew-
mentions some,
Yeah.
and he didn't get credit for him.
Yeah.
So like he's only
he'd
credited
be
for
standing there listening
half
to
of them?
somebody and they'd say, "Hey, you want to throw a guitar track on this?" And he'd do it, and that's the track they'd
and
keep.
he wouldn't sign
Yeah,
the W4
no.
or whatever at the
Yep.
end, and so he didn't get credit. Which is
Yeah,
wild.
so there's
Yeah. Steve Lukather's book, Jeff Porcaro's bio. It's about time, the man and his music, Robin. But it's super good. But it's one of those stories. It's kind of it doesn't delve into his personal life. It's just his music, his career in music. Yacht Rock, a documentary. It's available everywhere. That's pretty good. Have you seen that, Eddie?
Mhm.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah,
It's kind of
fun.
tongue in cheek a little bit,
It's fun.
but it's kind of cool to see
Yeah, for sure.
where the term yacht rock came from and kind of what this music has inspired.
And how long ago that really they've coined that phrase,
Yep.
and then it finally kind of started
It's
taking off.
a genre
Yeah.
now. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
on Wikipedia articles
yeah.
like yacht rock. And then so many YouTube videos of just old interviews. And the big one that's actually really cool, I think everybody should check out, Sunset Sound, the recording studio, has a podcast called Roundtable with Drew, and they interview all the people, engineers, assistants, like everybody, and it's so rad. So all of those. So who is Toto? We should answer that question. The main two guys, in my opinion, are Jeff Porcaro and David Page. Jeff Porcaro is a drummer. David Page, keyboarder, singer, main writer for most of it.
Yeah.
Well, and Lukather, if you want to round it out, like even Steve Porcaro said, like, there's no Toto without
For sure.
Lukather.
100%. I don't think he was like a leader of the band, though.
Yeah.
Because when they first,
it was
there's
Jeff's
stories.
brainstorm
I feel
idea.
like Jeff was the
Like,
main
yeah.
guy behind it.
Well,
and-
he's the one that called the shots.
yeah.
Really, he's
Okay.
the one that got them the gigs.
Well, and
too.
That's what I was feeling.
he's the one that
yeah.
he said, like, you know, that like Steve Lukather was a few years behind him in school, but he was eyeballing him like, if we put a band together, like,
yeah.
that's the guy, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah,
I have
like,
that. Yeah, in my history,
mhm.
they strung Lukather along for 6 months of like, I don't know, man. You know, I don't
Yeah.
know if you got the chops, and then just to keep him on his toes. Yeah, Goose is awake. And then David Hungate on bass, which I think is interesting. That just bass, no vocals or anything like that.
I know, because everybody else is
Kind
singing.
of awesome. Yeah, Goose.
He's got something to say.
David
Dingle
Hungate
butt.
is a great bass
Great
player,
bass
man.
player.
The
So
stuff that he
Yeah.
would come up with and
All the
do
stuff.
so good.
Yeah. Steve Lukather, we talked about him. Steve Porcaro, which is Jeff's younger brother, same age as Lukather. He did like all the synths, all the like quote unquote patching and programming of the synths and drum machines and all
Because
that.
literally, he was one of the guys that was connecting the.
And figured it out.
Yeah,
Nobody knew how to figure it out.
that was his thing.
Yeah.
And it would take hours, and Jeff would be mad at him because he'd be like, I could just lay it down. And Steve would be like, let me, come on.
I'm
And
tinkering.
then- yeah. But then older brother Jeff, of course, he would be mad, but then he would recommend Steve when people wanted that stuff,
Well, and that
Yeah.
seemed like a kind of underlying dynamic in the band, was that, like, you know, this sibling rivalry, like, within
100%.
the band between them was kind of always sort of bubbling under the surface.
Yeah.
And there
Yeah.
would be, like, I remember in one of the interviews, they were talking about how like there would be this resentment that would be very, when they're interacting, seem like, oh my gosh, like Jeff doesn't respect me at all.
Yep.
But then turn around and talk about like, oh, he's the greatest, and
Yeah, Lukather talks a lot about how there was a kind of some competition
Mm-hmm.
and friendly competition of like how big is your stack of checks when you pick them up at the Union House, like how many sessions you played on this week, like how many, who'd you play for? Oh, I did another session with Steely Dan. You played with Boz Skaggs. He's old dude, that kind of stuff.
Well, and that worsened, right? When their other brother Mike joins the band playing bass.
Well, that's
after
later,
this,
and I didn't get that far.
No, but they talk
yeah.
about like having three brothers in one band, especially when then
that'd be tough.
the excess post TOTO 4, when the drug use and everything else starts to kind of ramp up. Like
one of my favorite things when I was in Lavoie and when I play with Kip is that Sean's in the band, and when they start kind of like
bickering,
they start to get kind of brotherly love. We'll say. I just start chanting, fight, 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 fight. And then they, all right.
Take it outside.
I'm just like,
Let's
all right,
go.
Shawnee Van Halen, show him how it's done. And then last guy is Bobby Kimball on Vokes.
Again, super underrated, I think.
100%.
Yeah. Like he just got thrashed by like the press and them talking about how he almost seemed not as special as a vocalist because everybody in the band sang. And they talk about how like they always just lacked like a true like front man for the band. Somebody that had like even Steve Lukather said, we didn't have like a Bono. We didn't have like that person. And so that kind of hurts his like, the legacy I think that he has. And then of course the fact that
you kind of want him to be that person.
Yeah.
And he's like, no,
and
I'm just singing high tenor on these choruses, dog.
Right. And then just
and I
doing
feel
things
like
that other
he
vocalists can't
didn't
do.
get a fair shot because he didn't grow up with them.
Right.
Everybody else that was involved with them, they were connected.
Yeah,
they were session
high school
musicians since
together.
the early 70s. Yeah.
Yeah, so they knew each other. They lived in the same neighborhoods. They went to school together. There's so many things that Bobby Kimball wasn't a part of.
Right.
But Bobby cut his teeth playing, more of that funky soul stuff. And so he came in with that and he added that to them, and for some reason Paige would write all these songs that just needed a tenor singing high for everything. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
And the way they would split up some of the songs was pretty amazing, but Bobby's parts is what made those songs
made it
sound
the next
so
level.
cool.
Yeah.
It
was like the producer mind of like, oh, we need something that will just kick this up a notch.
Yep.
But that brings up something that I wanted to bring up because it was bringing up feelings in me when I'm researching this. Because they, like you said, all the band except Bobby all played in high school bands with each other. They moved to LA really young. In Lukather's case, was born there. They grew up playing in bands. A story that I'm going to use for an example of this is that when they moved, the Porcaros moved from Connecticut, they moved across the street from NBC Studios. And within a month, Ron Howard was in their garage jamming on guitar. And this is young Ron Howard, not, when he's Opie at the Andy Griffith show. And so that already is like their proximity and availability to just be in it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and these
already.
are, in
As
a
a
way,
kid
these
from
are,
Alaska,
yeah.
I was like, I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
Like, I'm wondering if you guys have that sort of feeling when you were growing up, like young kid in Texas. Maybe you can speak to this, Scotty, because you went to LA and lived there. And
well, what's funny is the fact that, like, we've talked before, even on this podcast, about some of these artists or bands that sort of come from nothing, and like work their way into a position where they're able to like wield some power in the music industry. Both the Porcaros and Payach come from like kind of almost like a nepotism background of like their like have parents working, because I know that like
Joe Porcaro was a symphony
like a
player.
jazz percussionist,
he was a
drummer.
percussionist, jazz percussionist and drummer, and he got a job like within 6 months. He was doing session work and fill-in work when they moved, but within 6 months he got a job arranging the Glenn Campbell variety show.
Yeah, so there you go.
And that's where Ron Howard comes in because like, they got to talking and. And
So,
then,
like-
and then Marty Page is another arranger.
Yeah,
Producer.
that's right. And he
dad.
arranged some strings on this album.
And so that's why I was like,
horns and stuff.
I'm like, man, I wish my parents would have moved me to, you know, but.
Which is funny
It's
because,
just
like,
an interesting feeling that was coming up of like, they're like
Like they were
Jeff Porcaro is a
predestined to do what they
third
did.
generation drummer.
Uh-huh.
First off, musician family, they get moved to the center of where it's all happening. When it's all happening in the late 60s, when all this money is coming into LA, you know, all the big record labels for the 70s and stuff. And I'm going like, man, what's our version of this today, I guess? And like I had a lot of emotions come up, basically.
Well, and like what you were asking, sort of parallel to that, is that I grew up, like, again, my dad was an artist who was like kind of as close as you can get to, you know, like breaking in the sort of contemporary Christian world without like fully getting there, you know. He was signed to a record deal for a little while that just did not end up kind of taking him past where he was. But he had a lot of, like, he recorded a whole album with all of these studio pros in LA that he built relationships with, that he still, you know,
Talks to today.
hangs out and plays with to this day.
Oh, cool.
Like they still, you know,
Yeah.
this guy, I'm gonna shout out Bob Soma. Bob Soma is kind of a legend in, you know, like the Christian music world. He's toured and played with everybody.
Yeah.
I just grew up with these guys, like knowing them, and then this engineer he's the reason I ended up actually going there to go to school, because he taught a recording program down there. The like producer engineer that worked on this record, and he'd worked with
so you had kind of
Paul
connections
Abdul
when you went down.
Yes, and I think like for me in my case, sometimes I think if I had stayed on the path of going into like Christian music and like writing worship songs and like going straight just hard into that, there probably would have been a much more direct on-ramp to like sort of quote unquote success.
You're the next Lincoln Brewster.
Yeah.
I see it in you.
But I couldn't get my hair to stand up like that, guys. But yeah, like I didn't want to do that. And so I think that was like a, you know, I'm sure
who you are.
Well, and there's very much like a now at least, or like in the time frame that I was down in that area, there was just such a, and I know this is true of a lot of big markets like this in Nashville and other places, where it's like you've got to conform to whatever the idea of what they would want like a successful artist to be.
Yeah, it's a business.
Yeah, and that's what takes you further. And so if you're not interested in that, you're just not gonna break through, you know. And so even with like, you know, having probably, I would say, a more direct connection than a lot of people would have, like, you know. So yes, I do understand that feeling. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's a weird.
There's more
just stuff coming up.
I'll have more feelings that parallel some of this stuff coming up too. But
so Jeff and Paige meet in high school. Lukather's a couple years behind him, and so is Steve Porcaro. Jeff was 17 when he gets picked up to play drums for Sonny and Cher TV show. He did say an interesting thing, and this is more about chops than about playing, is that he studied for 2 years and had 2 years of lessons and had like the jazz book. Who's the one jazz drummer guy that was really popular? Buddy? No.
Yeah, there was
Buddy Rich. He had like that book, and he made it to like almost the end, and after 2 years he was like, okay, I'm done. We were talking this a little bit about Kip, about like giving your kids just enough chops to be able to play, and then just play. Right?
Yeah, go get experience.
Like, just go play with people. And I thought about you, Eddie, because you play a lot, right? Would you say that's a good thing to do, or is it all about chops?
I mean, the fun part is the chops, but actually the fun part is just making it groove for me. But it's true though. You know, you can only learn so much. You just have to do it. At some point you have to get the love of why you're doing it, the music, you know, all of that. So yeah, for sure. It's not just about the chops, even though some guys on Instagram would argue that it is about the chops.
Man. Yeah.
If you're making like
if you're in
30-second videos, that's
if you're in the studio and you're making 30-second videos, it's about the chops.
About
yeah, you got to grab people's attention for sure. Let's see. We talked about that. Jeff gets picked up by Seals and Croft. He plays on Summer Breeze. He's like 18. That's wild to
Mhm.
me. Anyways, they don't get credited because so does Paige. Good story. This was a funny story. Jeff's playing with Sonny and Cher. Sonny and Cher's organist. It's the TV show that they had for a couple of years. Late 60s, early 70s. I think it was 72. Anyways, I don't remember. I wasn't born. But the story is that their organist quits. Jeff talks to Sonny like, "Hey, I know this guy. He's a piano player. He's really great. Like, you should pick him up." And Sonny was like, "Oh, well, I have a guy coming. But yeah, I'll give, I've heard through the grapevine, I have this other guy coming. I gave him a call. But sure, call your guy and we'll see who gets here first." And guess who walks in the door? Paige. And he's both guys. So Sonny was talking about Paige and Jeff was talking about Paige.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
But basically, point of that story is like Jeff brings Paige wherever he goes,
Mhm.
essentially.
Yeah,
And
they become kind of inseparable.
They're pretty inseparable. Steely Dan picks up Jeff and Paige. Jeff is their drummer. They talk about how they would do take after take, trying the whole band, to get perfect takes, and all it was is for Jeff, so that they can get the perfect Jeff drum take, and then they overdub everything else. They go do like 6 months of overdubs, but as long as they have the drum perfect, and like making the musicians go like, "Hey, the bass didn't feel it, do it again." And like making the bass perform would make Jeff perform, right? Like just that, all just for Jeff. So he plays on Pretzel Logic, which is not their first big one, but one of the big ones. Katie Lied, Engine Onwards. Another big one here is Boz Skaggs. It autocorrected to Bob. So I'm like, Boz Skaggs. 76 album Silk Degrees.
Yeah.
And that's where it first like hits all three guys, Paige, Jeff, and Hungate, the bass player, all played on that album. And that's where they were like, okay, we have something and we need to like get a band together. And that's where the idea first starts forming.
Well, and Jeff, I know, also talked about in that interview, in the audio interview you sent to us, his intention wasn't to like be a full-time drummer or anything when he was young. He wanted to be an artist.
Yeah.
But it was like the
Yeah, we
drums were
talked a
just
little
always
bit about
there,
it, yeah.
right? And then he's like, I didn't mean to be a session player either.
Yep.
It just,
Just
started
happened.
happening. And when you're that good, like, you're going to keep getting hired.
Yep.
So it makes sense, though, that there would be ambition to, like, if there's the heart of an artist in there to, like, do your own thing, and create something for yourself.
During this time, that Jeff couldn't play shuffles.
No, he didn't like how he played shuffles.
He didn't like how he
That
played
was
shuffles.
very different from not being
Not
able
being
to
able
play
to play
shuffle, because he could play shuffles. He just was comparing himself to
Bernard Purdy, right?
I thought it was Gad or somebody. I'm trying to remember who it was.
Gad
Somebody you
played
don't
on
wanna be
Asia.
comparing
Yeah.
yourself to.
Yeah. Gad played on Asia. On like
it was,
3
he
tracks
was,
on Asia.
Yeah, he was comparing
Yeah.
himself to somebody else and thought, I can't.
The name that gets thrown around is Bernard Purdy. Is that
Who
during
also-
this time he gets really mad a couple times in the studio and throws his sticks, says F this, goes out, takes a walk for like 20 minutes, comes back later, throws it down, and that's the take they use, even though they'll have him do it a couple times. It's just because he didn't like how he played shuffles, I guess. And he would study John Bonham and he would study Bernard Purdy.
That
And
reminds me
the
of
Purdy shuffle.
Josh Freese, I think, had the same exact situation happen when Sting called him to play with him.
Okay.
And he had a song that was a shuffle, and he was like, I don't want to play this song because you had so-and-so, because he was going to be the live drummer.
Oh,
You
okay.
had so-and-so play this, and I want,
can't
it
do
was
it right.
either,
Yeah.
who's the guy that played on 10 Sumner's Tales? Vinnie Caliuta. So he was like, I can't play a shuffle like Vinnie Caliuta can. And so he didn't want to even play that song. He was like, why did you have to pick that song? And then after he played it, Sting complimented him and he was like, what? Like, what? And again, it's that same thing. That's weird.
How do
how
you remember
drummers-
those names?
What's that?
All these,
The names of
yeah.
Vinnie Caliuta?
Yeah, how do you
And
remember
Josh
that?
Freese?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's crazy.
I have no idea.
That's so cool. Yeah, you're right on, dude.
Well, and funny that then, like, Purdy and Porcaro go to, like, they split like duty son, like gauchos, like Purdy plays half and Porcaro plays the other half.
Gaucho is 1980.
Mm-hmm.
Fun story about that is Gaucho is the song where Don Fagen, one half of Steely Dan, and the other guy, who I forget his name. Who's the other guy? Eddie, come on, name guy.
I know, right?
We'll figure it out. We'll look later. Anyway, they had a habit of like, they write stuff, and if the band isn't getting it in the like third or fourth take after like an hour, they'll just can the song and be like, we wrote something shit and we can't.
Walter Becker.
Yeah, Walter.
Jeff loved Gaucho so much. This was happening on the song Gaucho, and Don was like, I'm gonna leave, and you got, we're gonna can it probably. And Jeff was like, no, I love this song. We're going to get it. And so they would go bar by bar for 8 hours. They would go, we're going to nail this bar and we're going to cut it and then tape it on. And then called up Fagen at 5 a.m. going, hey, we got it. And then he came down.
Crazy.
He listened to it. Yeah, you got it. Cool. And then left.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what? You son of a bee. We just spent 8 hours.
And it's wild how just that mutual respect for drummers and just, in those kind of situations where they admire what the other guy did too. You know what I mean? They don't like tear it down. And just thinking of the Rosanna Shuffle, and he says that it's Purdy and it's also Fool in the Rain. And that's how he came up with his, and a Bo Diddley mixed in there,
Yeah.
But just that honoring in that, I'm going to take this from this because I love that, what he does there. Yeah. And I'm going to take it from here because I love that too, and makes his new thing. It's just pretty cool.
During this whole time, Lukather and Steve Porcaro I call him Stevie P in my notes. So
Stevie P.
Because of Steve Lukather and and Stevie P.
Confusing.
So it's Lukather and Steve.
Which they usually just call him Luke.
Yeah. I'm not on first name basis with him, so
and they call Paige.
Yeah. So that's how I have him in my notes. They're starting session work. Like I said earlier, they kind of string Lukather along for 6 months. That's what he says kind of in his book, is what it felt like to him. But later, 10 years down the road, they were like, it was always you, dude. And he's like, oh, okay, sweet.
Yeah.
But 77, they formally formed TOTO, just based off of Jeff and Paige. Gets them a 4-record deal with Columbia.
Yeah, they didn't have to
just
demo, audition, nothing.
Just based on the songs they've all played on, the hit records they've all played on. And dude,
and Paige had written songs for other people at that point, so they knew that he could write hits. That wasn't a question in their mind at all.
It was a really interesting scene back in then too, because to your point, Eddie, earlier about they would just play on other people's records and not get credited, but people knew, right? Like somehow people would find out, like, oh, like he's a cool guy. He played on my record. That was, that's actually Lukather, right? Oh, that's actually Jeff. Like David Paige wrote songs for people uncredited.
Well, and just it seems like hanging around, if you're working at like somewhere like Sunset Sound or whatever, you're gonna get pulled into sessions that you just like not scheduled for, but like, oh yeah, he could do it, and just throw him in the booth. And like that kind of sort of like they that even the fact that they called him like the A team or whatever, like in the group of players, it just makes sense that it's like everybody kind of just knew, like, oh, these are the guys. Like if you want this, these are the guys.
But that culture to have that happening where you could just hang out at a studio in that culture of just where people are creating things and making amazing music, and just you're there watching it and listening to it, and it's one big record in Studio A, another big record that's happening in Studio B, and then Studio C has another big record that's happening.
Oh, and Prince is there too. Somewhere.
It's crazy. That's how Michael McDonald got into sing background vocals for Christopher Cross. He was working on another record in another room, and Chris what was the producer? Michael Mardian.
Yeah, Michael O'Mardian.
Said, "Hey, do you got a minute?
Yeah,
I want you to sing on this."
You to come in.
Yeah,
I met him one time too.
Crazy.
With my dad.
Really?
Did you ever watch Stormy O'Mardian's Jazzercise video?
No
way.
She had one. Yeah.
Maybe we should put it on and like
we should live stream it.
Yeah.
But we have to go. We have to do the
try and do
the
it.
actual moves along with it.
Yeah, with the
dress up
leotards
with
and all.
leotards.
You have to go full out.
Yeah, like it's funny too because we've covered and talked a little bit about like what was happening in the UK, like you know around this time, what was happening in San Francisco, and of course like Billy Joel spends like
New York,
a little bit of time in LA. He does his first couple
early
records
70s,
there,
yeah.
and then you know he
was trying to do
very
Laurel
much a New
Canyon
York
though,
guy.
which is very different.
Oh
than,
yeah, and he didn't fit in with them. We
I
talked
wanted
about
to
that.
talk about that a little
Because
bit.
that's very
about
folky. The
scenes.
Laurel
Yes.
Canyon was
Yeah.
folky. Just
It's Linda Ronstadt, the Eagles, Jackson Brown, which they're all in this scene too because it's Laurel Canyon's only what 5 miles from I don't know, like it seems like a really small area, but it's still really divided.
Really matter. Yeah.
The neighborhoods really, really matter in LA because like just like in the bigger scale of you have the England scene, the UK scene, you have the New York scene,
well,
you
the
have
San Francisco
the San
scene,
Francisco
right?
scene
Yeah.
happening. You have the LA scene, and then the LA spleen. The LA spleen is also in different parts of the body.
But yeah, it's very.
But you have
divided.
Sunset Sound and Hollywood One, and they're all like right there in Sound City. And then you have Hollywood happening, which is only like, how far away is that?
Oh,
Like
it's
a mile?
right there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right
And-
there. But it's a completely separate scene.
Right.
Like the guys in Toto would go to Dante's, Baked Potatoes, which are jazz, quote, jazz clubs, R&B clubs, or nightclub. Like when I think of nightclubs, kind of like a Zola's, where it's like you're getting a bunch of different genres. But like a couple blocks down in Hollywood, you have the heavy metal,
Yeah, Van Halen and Motley Crue and
all the crazy metal hair bands
Uh-huh.
that are wild.
and like
And-
hard edged.
and
I
wouldn't-
mean, their version
Wouldn't
of
be
like what
caught
was hard edged.
dead in the studio with Toto. That's really that to me is really interesting too. That it's like completely separate, just worlds, you know. Anyways, I didn't have a point for that. It was
No,
just,
but it's I
it's
do
just a
think
weird.
it's fascinating because when you look at like these guys coming up playing with all of these artists of like a lot of diverse sounds, but when they're gonna form their own band, you can tell that they're pulling from all of that stuff that's happening. They like the hard rock sound, they like the R&B sound, they like all of it. It's really like that's the thing to me when you listen through this whole record, you know, is it's very clear that like this was their attempt to like we got to show off like how we can play all of these different genres and like, you know, sort of in a like almost like alchemy kind of way we can make them all like work together, you know. And it like I don't know, I
turn
get
all these genres alchemy like into perfect music.
yes,
perfect
exactly.
songs. Michael McDonald, we mentioned him. He does get asked to be lead vocalist. There is an alternate dimension where
you
he's lead
imagine?
vocalist of Toto.
Can you imagine Michael
How would that
McDonald?
work? Writing the high tenors like
so
that.
where did you hear that from? Because that seems
Paige
like
and Picaro in that round table with Drew. Steve
yeah.
Picaro, not Jeff. But
I bet it was more like just
they
like
asked him,
somebody
and he
asked
was
him at
like-
some point, and he's like,
they
nah.
they asked him, and he was like, "Guys, you should have let me know like a week ago, because a week ago I just accepted Doobie Brothers."
Sliding doors, man.
Yeah.
wow.
And so, and he's and I'm
That just
prepping to
seems
go
like
out
it
on
would
the
be
road.
so weird him singing
Wouldn't that
any
be
of that
weird?
material.
Yeah, but
just
can you
like-
imagine him doing like "Waiting for Your Love"? Oh,
Yeah.
come on. That would be pretty.
It's just so weird. Like all these high tenor parts, who would do like
I know.
what is that? Yeah.
I mean, Michael does have that high voice.
He can get up there, yeah. It just has a tone that is that is full and weird. It's
yeah, musky. Musky is the only
Musky is
word
a
I
good.
can
That's a
think
good
of.
word.
musky.
Have you guys heard my? Have I ever?
The musk.
Have I
of
ever
these
told you
McDonald.
I used to joke that I think the way Michael McDonald developed his vocal tone was that it started out as a Elvis impersonation, but then he couldn't like stop the shape and the sound, that it just became that, you know, that really like kind of covered dark kind of musky sound.
First time I heard about Michael McDonald, and this is gonna be crazy, guys, but I'm an SNL nerd, and there is a skit out there that is
Where he
Michael
goes-
McDonald's, where he has a burger restaurant called McDonald's,
Oh.
but doesn't know about the actual McDonald's. And like they get sued, and he's just like, "Have another burger on me," you know, the way he sings and stuff.
Yeah.
It's funny, but
Wow.
it's never. I don't think it ever made it to air. So it's like one of those.
Yeah, the cut for time.
It goes to dress rehearsal like 5 or 6 times and just never gets it. But it's anyways, so funny. 78 Toto 1 comes out, mostly written by Paige. notable tracks are, for me, are I'll Supply the Love. The
hits.
the big ones, the hits. I'll Supply the Love, Georgie Porgy, Hold the Line.
Hold the Line.
Bonus, I really like Taking It Back. You hear a lot of Steve on that. Like the early synthesizers and stuff. Yeah.
But that was like a multi-platinum record. Like comes out, like does extremely well off of the backs of a couple of those songs.
Yeah, big notable story is that 10 minutes before Lukather was to go record the overdubs for Hold the Line, Page comes in with Van Halen's One and goes, "Hey dude, listen to this." And puts on Eruption and then goes, "Okay, cool. Go record Hold the Line. Do good. Hope you do good." And it just freaked Lukather out. He tells that story in his book. So, and it's interesting because after he said that, I like paused it and then went and listened to Eruption and was like, holy crap, yeah, that is wild.
Did you know that David Lee Roth used to tell Eddie to turn his back to the crowd when he would do his solos?
Nobody see what he's doing?
Because he knew he was making things that people had not seen before, and he would look out at the crowd and see all these musicians that he knows in town, all these guitar players.
Salivating, taking notes.
So he would have them turn his back so they wouldn't see how he was doing all that stuff.
That's proprietary.
Yeah, David Lee, businessman, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, then you listen to Hold the Line after, and you're like, oh yeah, I can hear it. I can hear the desperation in his fingers, just like, I gotta do it. To your point, Scotty, it spent 6 weeks up in top 10, and US did very well. Most critics liked it. Rolling Stone did not. No. Imagine that.
Called
very
it a
smooth,
dull debut,
slick
which is
production. Wild. I never heard them talk about touring this record. The whole time, Jeff kind of like doesn't like to tour, even though he says he loves.
He said he liked it, which is weird.
But they never tour on it. And Lukather in his book is like, if we did tour, it was only for like a month because Jeff wanted to get back to session work, which is really interesting.
It is really interesting because I feel like they all sort of knew that sort of shot them in the foot early in their career, because even Steve Lukather talks about like if they had done more, they could have sort of reached the arena rock level, you know, of like some of those other bands at the time, like Journey and
and you think about Billy Joel, who only toured
for a long time.
His albums.
It's just like on the road all the time.
During the 70s, Billy Joel is just like he spends 2 weeks in the studio, makes a hit record, and then tours for the rest of the year.
Yeah, just gone.
Just insane. And that's how he was able to we talk about it in a bit. You'll have to listen to that episode, Billy. Or Eddie.
Yeah, Billy.
Billy Joel episode, Billy.
Billy Joel, please listen to our episode about... Actually, don't.
So 79, they did Hydra. They wanted to lean more into the prog rock.
On which one? Hydra?
Hydra.
Yeah.
I want to lean more into that. Do you know what 99, the song, is about?
Isn't it about war or something to do with another...
This is where the nerdiness comes out. Because Page said it, he wrote it after he watched George Lucas's THX 1138, which is like the movie right before he does American Graffiti.
Correct. It was like
a 30-minute movie.
Student short film that then he developed into a feature after he got out of film school, and it's like Robert Duvall and really interesting sci-fi movie. Yeah. It's the kind of like weird George Lucas movie that he always talked about that he really wanted to make but never made again.
Yeah, he made Star Wars.
So then 99 is about that movie, or
it's
about
influenced by it?
It's heavily influenced by that. Yeah,
okay.
Because it's kind of a dystopian, you know, like police state. The big phrase are like the prison of the mind. You know, like the only thing keeping you from breaking out of nonconformity.
It was kind of George Lucas's. It's got the guy with the teardrop with the hat, the bowling hat. Clockwork Orange. There you go. It's like kind of loosely based off of that. So like that was really big in the film scene at the time, was this like real heady sci-fi allegories.
Sure.
George Orwell's 1984 was coming, you know, that kind of stuff. Didn't do very well. This is where Rolling Stone says it doesn't have the magic of their first album, which is weird because it's the same author, the same reviewer of both. Yeah. And that's where
without naming names, we had a guy that would do music.
Name names, dude.
Music. I can't even remember
his
name.
Dead.
Which now he's still around.
Okay.
But I remember when TOTO was coming to the knitting factory. And he was the guy on the Inlander that would write down, you know.
Oh, so it's local. It's not okay.
A local guy. I remember him just just downplaying that Toto was even going to be here, and just like
Just holding on
almost saying that there probably wouldn't be anybody at the show. It was like
packed, though.
in the right way to say it to where it didn't sound, but you're like, wait a minute, that's not nice,
Yeah.
And just kind of saying that they're basically Africa is their thing, like that's what a one-hit wonder kind of thing. And I remember just reading what he was saying. I'm like, this guy has no idea.
No.
And that night there was so many younger people there, and they opened up with one of their songs that was in 7,
Yeah.
So it's like they're coming out and people are like, whoa, Odd
right away.
Time Signature Song was their first one, and Leland Sklar was playing bass during that time. Yeah. So he was up there with his big beard, playing the bass parts.
Awesome.
Yeah,
it's so cool to hear them talk about Leland Sklar. He's a hero. If I had a hero, he's a hero of mine, because he's not like, he was somehow in the scene, but never did the drugs or the women, or like was able to just stay pure and just is such a cool guy.
And there's so many records that I remember in the Christian world that he played on. I mean, when I think of my bass heroes, like, he's not one of the first ones, but I know he's in there, like, influence.
Gotta be, because he played on country records, James Taylor.
Yeah,
he was at the whole Laurel Canyon vibe was Leland Sklar, and then during the 70s, he was always there. Yeah, and then in the 80s, he's always here. Yeah, he's just like the mainstay. That's like, how could you not hear and just love the guy?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, so just zoom ahead a little bit, because we basically...
Well, we did Turn Back.
And
Turn Back is my favorite album cover, because it's the
the simple
it's
face.
It's just a really simple face with the little red line. Cool. All 3 of these albums, Turn Back was in 81. All 3 of these albums do really well in Japan, by the way.
Which is fascinating.
Having been there.
Well, because the 2 in between,
and then the city pop, inspired by all this. It's like perfection. We're on this big Japanese city pop right now.
We are. It's just passing like different YouTube videos back and forth.
Look at this guitar is a train. This guitar is a surfboard. And I'll play you a song and have you guess the year, and you'll probably be right on. But it's just cool. I don't know. It's just super cool.
But they kind of flop, the 2 in between.
They super flop. Turn Back is horrible. And in this album, is the one that was also produced by the other guy.
Was there a single off of Turn Back that was?
They all had singles.
What was the Turn Back single?
I mean, there was singles, but it did terrible.
Live for Today.
One of the reasons that Lukather says is that the producer guy didn't really like take Toto's suggestions. And he kind of just was like, I'm going to do it my way. And he took out all the 1K. So it sounds kind of a weird, hollow, no mids, kind of just kind of weird. Like, and they were saying to him, we want arena rock. And he was like, all right, I'm going to give it to you, whether you like it or not. And they didn't like it. Yeah. And nobody liked it.
Yeah.
So...
So
it also has really weird songs. The mastering is way off, too. If you listen to the 2 songs, Live for Today into A Million Miles Away, they sound like 2 completely different bands, like albums, because they're just super weird. And they're like, it threw me. It literally was like, whoa, it threw me off. And I had to stop listening to it after that. So after this, Columbia gives them an ultimatum. Your next record, your last one is a hit, or this is your last record. We're going to drop you if it's not a hit, supposedly.
Well, they all say that. Like, that's kind of that is the narrative.
So the pressure is on, and all during this time, every member is doing session work. We already talked about Don Landy of Van Halen and Doobie Brothers about getting him to engineer. He couldn't do it. We talked about Al Schmidt and at Sunset Sound. This is a cool picture at that time that was taken. I'm going to post it because...
Yeah, do it.
They look kind of funny.
Oh, they do. Steve Lukather talks about it all the time. Yep. He's just like, we just did not have the look that a lot of cool bands had. And he's like, I regret everything.
It's so interesting. David Hungate's hair is already gray. So he's...
Michael McDonald's hair was already gray,
already gray in that time, too, yeah. We are now in 81. We're recording for TOTO 4. It took 8 months to record, mostly because they would work on it for a week or 2, and then they'd have to go out for other session work and go do that. Then they come back. They recorded mainly at Sunset Sound, Page's house for demos and backing tracks, which I think they call it Mog Manor or something.
Nerds.
It's such a nerd. It's like a Mog is another name for goblin, and it's such a silly. Anyways, apparently they had almost an unlimited budget.
Can you imagine?
I'm so jealous.
LA studio. I mean, when you look at who all else worked on this record too, I mean, they've got like James Newton Howard arranging work on this, you know, and like, you know, obviously he had not become who he like becomes in the film world yet, but yeah, just we're gonna go Sunset Sound. We're gonna do whatever we want to do.
Page and Stevie P flew to England with Newton Howard so that they could record in Abbey Road, and they recorded an orchestra, and they didn't keep it.
That
they ended up doing overdubs back
expense, ends up on the cutting room floor.
What? And then
just a huge
my
write-off.
favorite is for Africa. For this album, they figured out how to do most of this album is 3 24-track tape recorders. For Africa, they were like, we're going to do every track a percussion. And Jeff just went wild. And they had to get a fourth one so that they could have all the percussion tracks. They had to ship in a fourth one, and they had to figure out how to slave it because nobody had ever like figured out how to do that yet. And it's just like,
and they're cutting
and the big tape
taping,
loop too, that they did.
Yep.
And here's what I love about that, though, just even talking about that, is that everybody hated that song. You know, it's like Page, wrote it, and everybody else is just like, that's a dumb song.
Have you ever been to Africa, Page?
Yeah.
Do you even know there's
just making fun of him. But what I admire about it is that their professionality and their love for music is they didn't half-ass the song on their playing. They didn't, you know what I mean? I hate this song, so I'm not going to play it well. You know what I mean? Yeah. It wasn't that.
That's the Police model.
Yeah. They just did, you know what I mean? They did what they do.
Well, and they talked about how it was an opportunity to explore like everything that you could do in a studio at that point in time. It was like, even if we're not like crazy about it, we're going to like push ourselves to like experiment and
Same
learn
thing
things.
with Georgie Porgy. Like the guys thought that chorus is so, just
silly.
Stupid. Yeah. And it was a Russian lady. What was her name? The one that sang that part. She came into the studio because Page was working with her on another song, which was, Patricia Rushing.
Okay.
And they were working on her stuff, and then she came in because they were together working on the stuff, and showed her Georgie Porgy, and the guys were like, "I'm not singing that. We're not going to sing that. I'm not going to sing Georgie Porgy. I'm not going to sing that." And so she said, she goes into that booth and says, "Here, this is how you sing something like this. If you don't like the context, here's how you do it. You give it an attitude, hand on the hip, kind of like." And so that's Georgie Porgy, and that's how. It cool. And they left that. That's why she sings that part.
It's like bring that attitude out in it, and
and so that's the only reason. So so they're playing and everything, but they were like, okay, I draw the line at I'm not going to sing that. You know.
There you go. Well, and it's funny, too, to hear them talk about, like, they're like, obviously, we didn't have a lot of faith in Africa. That's why we put it at the end of the record. It was like, if anybody makes it that far, then great.
Yeah.
But, like, Steve Lukather's like, he's talking about, he had all this weird, like, he'd grown up in, like, going to Catholic school, and so he'd hear the missionaries talk about it. He was like, somebody asked him, like, have you ever even seen it? And he's like, well, yeah, in pictures, like National Geographic, what the Serengeti looks like. He goes... That interview with Steve Lukather where he says, like, when he came back with that line about the Serengeti, we were all just like, okay, dude, like,
what a nerd.
Yeah, whatever, man. Like, this is so corny.
You bless the rains in Africa. What does that even mean, you nerd?
Yeah.
And I think it's hilarious that, like, if you look at the trajectory of a song like that, they didn't expect anything from it. It becomes their first and only number one charting song.
Rosanna.
Did not go to number one, as far as I know. Let me check my notes again here. You have top 10 hits with Rosanna and Won't Hold You Back, but Africa's their only number one.
Oh, wow.
it's funny that Africa like kind of becomes like in the period after that kind of becomes a joke for a while, then becomes like a karaoke staple where people sing it sort of ironically until it's not ironic anymore, and then it comes storming back as this like now it is the most requested song at Starcourt shows that we do not currently have in our set list rotation.
Africa is?
And yes. And this is where I admit on mic that it's because I'm scared of doing it because we need more keyboards on stage, and I don't. Yeah.
How would we even?
Everybody would have to play keyboard on that song. I don't know how we do it.
Or you can just get Phil Gaines to come in and just play. Oh yeah, he'll do it on one keyboard.
Yeah, we get that request. All people will be like, at set breaks, they'll come up and be like, "You guys are gonna do Africa, right?" I kind of was through my teeth. I'm like, "We'll see." We gotta get back up on stage now.
That one's up there on the pinnacle of like, you kind of just don't.
Well, because if the ethos of our band is trying to do everything justice and like do it well, it's not a goof. We're not gonna make fun of it. It's like it needs to be really good. Yeah. So we'd have to take some time to like. But I mean, we figured out under pressure. I'm sure we could do it.
Al wanted me to sing that at Field Trip.
He wanted you to do Africa?
And yes. And I'm like, no. I'm like, are you going to sing the high part? And he's like, no, you're going to do the whole thing. I'm like, no, thanks.
Next year.
That's funny.
Oh, no.
Start working on it now. You'll have it down.
Yeah. We mentioned James Newton Howard. A notable inclusion for me is Timothy B. Schmidt, bass player for the Eagles. Did vocals and guitar on,
and he was the vocals on Super Cool. It's a slow song that they do.
Oh yeah, Eagles song, right?
Well, he's on the Eagles, but no, on TOTO's. Yeah, he did background vocals on.
Okay.
He was on one of the ballads.
Yeah, and
one of the super cool ones.
I'm not a ballad guy, so I
love them. All the guitar solos on the ballads are just some of the best solos that Steve does.
I'm not a ballad guy, so I was like, okay.
It's Hold You Back Now. I think. Okay. I think Timothy's on.
He's listed on like 4 songs, so
for sure.
It's just super cool to see after the breakup of the Eagles break up, and then he's still around, and everybody's still around doing. They're all on Don Henley. It's so funny. They're all on Don Henley's records, and they're all on each other's records and stuff. But so that was a notable inclusion for me. What else were we? Real quick, as a bass player, I saw this on the Round Table with Drew interview with Steve and Paige, that they were talking about. They just recorded with Chris Squire right before this, and so they put Hungate through a guitar track or a guitar amp, and that's what's on Rosanna.
The Marshall
is a Marshall, and he's using a pick. For
Rosanna. I would have never have known that.
I would have never thought about that in a million years because it just sounds like a slap part to me. But then I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I would have never have guessed that. The tone of the bass doesn't feel that way to me either.
Yeah, I was like, I wanted to throw that at you because it doesn't sound like it's a Chris Squire tone.
Yeah.
Where it's real crunchy and real high-endy
thin.
And like, thin, but it's like, which is so funny to me because he plays a Rickenbacker through a guitar amp.
Yeah,
no wonder you had to use a guitar amp because you use a Rickenbacker.
Yeah.
Get a jazz bass through an ampeg and you'll be fine. Like, you goober. But anyways, it was just interesting little tidbit.
Yeah, it's wild that they have top 10 hits with they kind of come storming back into this is a very. After 2 flops, the kind of make or break moment, they do it, they make it and have hits with Rosanna's the first song to take off.
Yep.
And it's the one that, really quick after the album came out, people were like, this is the obvious big song. And then Africa's the sleeper, that, will define them for the rest of their career. But then, the album goes 4 times platinum in the US. Goes to 4 on the Billboard year end, for 82, and then stays on the charts. It's 11 in 83. So as the single, especially as Africa, the tail, the legs of that song, they managed to keep charting, into the next year. They talk about how the decision to not tour right away because they all went straight into working on Thriller. They were helping, and Chicago 16. They're doing work on both of those. So they took time to do
Well,
that.
And during
they-
the making of it too, notable inclusion is Lukather writing for George Benson.
yes.
George Benson is R&B guy.
And look at there's writing on piano too for
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah, during the sessions. So like all this stuff, they're working with Stevie Nicks. They're working with like the best of the best.
Yeah.
And
The
you know, when
cream
you
of the
listen
crop.
to like Chicago 16 and the horn arrangements on that, you hear Toto horn arrangements because it's Page that is doing the
Oh, yeah.
Chicago 16
Totally.
stuff, you know. It's crazy how you hear the same riffs and you're like, wow.
But you kind of wonder if, like, the fact that obviously they knew that they were trying to make a record to, like, okay, we have to do this if the band is, like, going to keep going. We've got to succeed. If they had, like, had any idea that a song like Africa is going to have that kind of, like, staying power, charting and all that, they would have booked, like, been out on the road immediately just, like, doing that, you know?
there's
But like
thing.
that, the
Would they
mentality of the
have,
band.
though?
I mean, the way that Lukather talks about it, like he says, like we shot ourselves in the foot by not like immediately just like touring for, you know, like 2 years on that record, because he's like, we couldn't do what like Foreigner and Journey and like these bands were doing because we were in this mindset that like we just keep working.
But here's
you know?
the deal though. Hungate famously quits the band.
Yeah, this is
On
last record
the
with
last
him.
tracking session, he quits the band.
Well, because he
Lots of differing accounts on that, on how he quits the band.
supposedly he'd moved out to Nashville, right? He'd bought property and was
Well, so the first I heard about it was Lukather in his book. He said that he threw his bass across the room, threw the pick at Lukather, and said, "Fuck this, I'm out. I quit." And do you remember that in this book?
Yeah, no.
No, dude, it was like, whoa, what the heck? And Lukather describes it as like, I was shell shocked. Like, okay, like I don't know what's going on, dude. Like, and then when I hear Paige talk about it and Jeff talk about it in that interview, everybody's like, oh no, he had already bought a house. He was waiting to get out. He was wanting to get out. He had a family. He had a farm up in Nashville. He had a production company already in
Well,
Nashville.
because they came to Spokane, you know, and played. This was a few years back, Northern Quest.
Yeah.
And David Hungate was playing bass.
because
with
he
them
rejoined for
one
a couple
tour.
years.
Yeah.
yeah.
But even then, it was like kind of the joke was like, you know, he doesn't like touring. You know, he's
So
not-
that's where I'm like, and
it's
then
not his thing.
Jeff, while famously saying he likes to tour, also doesn't like to tour because like he never went out with Steely Dan very much.
You know, that was
he
the
just stayed.
opportunity for Dan Huff and guys like Michael. Oh man, I can't think of his name, but because Lukather started when they went on the road, that opened up opportunities for other people to step into sessions.
Yeah,
And Dan Huff was one of them. The other guy was a friend of Lukather's too. They grew up playing together. I can't think of his name right now, but another great, amazing guitar player.
Yeah,
Yeah,
having some
studio
space
guy.
to like
So
step in.
they say they want to go on tour, but
Yeah.
do they really?
I don't know.
I don't think they
well,
do.
and in that, I don't know. I'm sure there's a
think-
bit of like looking back at it with different eyes, you know?
Yeah, this was also around the time when Jeff started getting married and having like settling down a little bit. And Paige had a family with kids already, so it's like I don't know if they really wanted to tour.
Well, and it's
You know?
interesting that then, of course, like after this, you know, this record and cycle and everything, like they have to fire Bobby Kimball, you know, because of his drug use. And Lukather says, like, you know, he'd be up all night. Like, he's like, we all would be up all night kind of partying, doing cocaine or whatever. And he's like, my throat would be thrashed in the morning, but I didn't have to sing. And
Yeah.
like Bobby Kimball would have to sing. And so they were like, that was the only thing he was in the band to do.
Yeah. And if I had to sing, he wouldn't have been out. Like he would have been resting his voice and stuff.
So it's kind of the interesting thing that you look at, like where, because I mean, honestly, this is their big shining moment, and then the band is like it's slow disintegration for the next like decade, you know, and that sucks. Like it's really sad because
Couple years, yeah.
spoiler alert, like, you know, by 93, that's when Jeff Porcaro dies, you know, and they don't really have another like record like this that hits this way, you know, and so that's why when people, it's like, oh, like some writer for the Inlander who, you know, it's like, oh, it's just Africa, and it's like, well, it isn't, but sadly, like that becomes the legacy of a band that like right in the wake of kind of their biggest success can't quite like capitalize in the way that like some bands did.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I don't know. I think that that's kind of fascinating because obviously like these guys all took themselves as musicians very seriously. You know, the music and the perfectionism and all that, like in the studio is very like, that was kind of the driving force of the band, and you can hear it in everything that they're doing. You kind of wonder like if it's exaggerated or whatever, but like somebody like Hungate's finally just like, I can't take this anymore, you know, like this.
I mean, especially if he's paying for a farm. The adult side of me is going like, I'm paying rent on this house.
like
I'm not even living in, and my family's
Yep.
out there, and like I gotta get going.
We're doing
guys.
like
It's been 8 months we've been tracking this record.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
yeah,
Like I get it.
hours
I
of
understand.
sessions.
But,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think what I think it was is that, and this is why I was expressing skepticism about Lukather kind of being the main
a
leader,
reliable narrator.
is that like
also
he probably wasn't in on the decision. Is that maybe Hungate told Jeff and Paige like, hey, I got this going on. And so for them, that wasn't that big of a deal. But it kind of hit Steve because he wasn't told, maybe just because he wasn't around or,
Yeah.
you know. So I'm thinking like maybe for him, emotionally, it was a bigger blow.
Sure.
And
felt like the
so
end
he
of a
feels like it was a
relationship.
big, he threw his bass around when really he just like, a little bit of drama, band drama.
Yeah.
Can we talk about tracks that what are our standouts? What's everybody's favorite?
Well, do we want to talk
songs
about the
here?
Grammy Awards really quick?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Let's take a break. We've been talking for like an hour. Let's take a break.
How long do you guys usually go with?
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm going to try and do this really quick before the music runs out. This is Ryan. I just wanted to say a quick thank you to all our listeners, feedbackers, emailers, Rocco, shout out Rocco, our commenters, likers, subscribers, even our viewers on social media. We're a super small podcast, and we see and appreciate everything. Please keep it up. We will take requests, you know, probably eventually we'll get to it anyways because the 80s was a finite time, but eventually we'll get to it, so that might speed it up if you want to request it. Again, we love you, and I can't believe I did it before the music ran out. And back to our scheduled program. Thank you. Bye.
Like, all right.
Yeah.
The kids were happy.
All of these songs are so good, though.
I agree.
Yeah, it was hard.
I started out like kind of maybe a little down on a couple of them, like that's probably a skip for me. And then I'd listen to it again and be like, nah, this song kind of rules.
You get to the instrumental section or to a vamp,
Yeah.
and they just come up with these cool,
Yeah.
cool things that you thought at first the song was okay, and then by the end you're just like,
All right. Yeah.
that song was so good.
Even
you know.
like the only one that I kind of for a while I think was like, this one to me, like if there's any of them that feel like album filler, it was like It's a Feeling, that one and smack dab in the middle.
Yeah.
And then the more I listen to it, it's like the vibe of this is so good. And the way they layer like the acoustic and electric guitar part
Yeah.
with the kind of chorused sound
Yeah.
and the synths and stuff, and the groove, I was just like,
Yeah.
if you could actually just loop this song for like half an hour,
And the
I'd be
melody.
happy.
Da-da-da,
Yeah.
da-da-da-da-da,
It's like, yeah, even
da-da-da.
so even that one, I'm like, nah,
So
that's it's a vibe. I like
Yeah,
it.
The whole thing's so good. The album following this one is the one that I really got into, which is Fahrenheit. That I would just listen to on
On loop.
repeat. Yeah,
Interesting.
just
Yeah.
crazy. Like that was my favorite record.
Yeah. I haven't gotten to it yet because we're on 4.
Oh, it's so
I'm
good.
like, ugh.
So
Future
good.
episode. We'll have Eddie come
all
back.
4 coming up. to
Man,
this, and
yeah.
This album is just.
And the other
insane.
ballad on that one, Fahrenheit, I think
Yeah.
is the ballad.
You're such a romantic. Eddie.
Oh, so good. Just those
Those soaring
solos, dude.
ballads,
Those
yeah.
guitar solos.
Okay, and I
Yeah.
will say with that, I think somebody's gonna come at me.
Hot take. Hot take alert.
Hot take alert. For me, I actually prefer Steve Lukather to somebody like Van Halen. I like
Sure.
Eddie Van Halen for what he does, and obviously his playing was more sort of influential for like everything that was to come in the next decade of rock music. I just think Steve Lukather as a player, he often is just playing the line or the part or the solo that I'm like, I wish I could either do that or think of that or like, yeah, that's exactly the perfect thing that needs to happen
Yeah.
right there, you know.
And that's where the rub was with Steve Porcaro and the rest of everybody else, is that Steve is the kind of guy that needs to go home,
Yeah.
work out all his parts,
Plan it
and then
out.
come back and say, here's what I came up with.
Sure.
Yeah.
And those guys are first listen, here's what I come up with, and it just happens
take
to
one
be
or
the
two.
best thing
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
could
Roll
have.
tape, let's
The
go.
first or second
It's
take,
like that's
they
what
were
that
all-
song needed. You're
Yeah.
done. Go
It's just
ahead.
by
See you
feel.
later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
just that difference of gift that they had, and how it comes out. And so that's what those guys had. Steve has that. Like he sits down, listens to a song, and just knows what to add to it to make it.
Lukather has that.
Yeah, just ripping like a part that just it not only like fits kind of perfectly in the style and whatever they're doing, but is also like
Emotionally it works.
yeah. And then technically you're like, I don't know how he did that, then it's kind of a cool mix of those things. So when I listen to like Steve Lukather's playing, it turns the wheel, my musician wheels, like more than because like again, like I respect very much what Eddie Van Halen can do and what he does, but there's like to me when I listen to it, I hear a lot of tricks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I'm like, it's cool. I can't do any of that.
Yeah.
But there's like technical things that are happening musically, like in a lot of the Lukather parts, and I'm just like, wait, back it up.
And his melodicism is just so good.
I wanna, like, figure
just
it out.
like Rosanna solo, where he just adds that hammer on. Just that, and it's all melodic and so good.
So Rosanna is obviously like a banger right off the top.
Yeah, that was my
like,
top one.
It's just great, and
it encapsulates 30 years of Toto into one.
It sounds
5-minute
like
song.
the 80s, really.
And also it
just
it does, and it sounds
it
really
sounds
good.
like the 80s. Like you think it puts you right back where
for sure.
That drum sound, like just the actual like the way it's recorded, just it's so clean, and so like you can hear all of like the things that Jeff is doing because it's so clean and clear and like well recorded, and like that foundation for the whole that song, like all of the little key changes and like the way it modulates and gives everybody a chance to kind of sing and like brings the dynamic down every time they hit the chorus is just real cool, or like the pre-chorus before the horn parts, and like
I remember hearing somebody's there was a interview or some kind of conversation somebody was having. They were talking about David Hungate, and this was right when he had moved to Nashville, and he was starting to work with another producer there, and that producer had said that of the bass player that he would always use for his sessions, when he found out that David Hungate moved to Nashville, that guy quit and he became like a real estate guy or something. He's like,
hey,
and
careful.
so then the guy asked him, was like, so you think he quit because David? He goes, kind of, He just thought, I don't have a chance. But anyways, that guy said that Hungate brought him a cassette. He goes, you want to hear the last thing we were working on?
Yeah.
And it was Rosanna. He said, and it was before the horns were on it.
Yeah.
And he was blown away. He was like,
sure.
And he almost liked it better without the horns. Just hearing what was happening during those parts and how they were playing all that without the horns accenting any of that stuff.
Exactly,
they're just doing that stuff. And I'm like, man, it makes me want to put it in Moises, and take out the horns and listen to see what that sounds like.
I'm going to be a contrarian and say that my favorite stretch of songs actually on this is the back half of the record. I think that side B from like Afraid of Love through Waiting for Your Love is just straight fire. I'm just like, I can't believe how many stacked up like cool grooves and songs are in just on the B side of your record. You can tell that Afraid of Love is very much like we like what Van Halen's doing with like their more rock sound. Let's do that. Let's write some riffs, guitar like driven riffs and stuff.
Yeah.
You can tell with like I felt like Lovers in the Night almost felt like very similar to what Styx was doing around this time too. Had kind of a similar feel with the chorus. Lovers in the night, like that kind of.
You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of Billy Squier.
Sure.
That just the vibe that Billy Squier had on the melody and everything. Just
well, and it's such a cool
I have Afraid of Love as my dud. As one of my duds.
Do you? I like Afraid of Love. And you know what? I didn't think I was going to like it until I kept hearing it build to the chorus, and then I was like, nah, I like this song. That happened to me every time, though.
Yeah.
I'd be like, maybe this one isn't it. And then there'd be some riff in there that I'm like, no, I
Yeah.
love this song.
Yeah, that's kind of
Even We Made It, which I think is kind of maybe the most tossed off song, has this like, perfect little like pinched harmonic that Luke does every time they're going into the chorus that I just keep wanting to back it up and hear the line again and again and again, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then Waiting for Your Love was the one that snuck up on me and like...
Dude, when I listened through this album, I was like, that's the one. It's been on repeat.
It's like the hidden gem that suddenly is like...
And it's, you know why? Is because it's the last song of the album.
Right, before
Africa.
The epic, the
before
thing
the
that they
actual
were like,
last song of the album.
Yeah.
Quotes.
Yep.
Has Blake ever done Waiting for Your Love?
Mm-mm.
Oh, you need
I
to
sent
slip
it to
that.
him years ago.
You need to slip that into the set.
Yeah,
man. He
I
would
sent it to
crush
him
that
years
song.
ago. I'm like, dude, this would be so cool.
The
And now
groove
I
is
think
so
he's
good.
kind of coming full circle too, though.
Mm-hmm.
In the past few, maybe year, or maybe a little bit longer.
You guys would
Where
crush.
like
that.
He's
I
trying
remember
to get
telling
that
him,
Michael McDonald
I remember
thing
telling him
and-
about Boss Gags. You know,
Yeah.
I was like, we should do this song, and he said, oh yeah, that sounds cool. He liked it and stuff. And then now we do it in the Yacht Rock tribute band that we play in. We do that Boss Gags Lowdown,
Yeah.
So I know he's like, I think that it takes sometimes when you're not from that genre or when you're not from that world, you know what I mean?
And he's
Especially
they're young. Right?
Yeah, they're younger.
They're 30s,
younger,
right? Or 20s.
not even, they're about to hit their 30s. They're still
so
in their 20s.
it takes a while
So
to come around.
but once that hits, then you see it. And now, a lot of the stuff that he starts messing around with is all stuff I'm like, don't you play with my heart like that.
Right. Start playing that.
It's all the cool stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. You'd be like,
totally.
Don't start it if you can't finish it.
I know. Let's do this. And it's funny. I'm like the Toto fan. I was telling him the other day how I don't know. Maybe we'll hear people in the comments or something. But
Get in the
I'm the
comments.
kind of Toto fan that never learned to play any of the songs. I had listened to them.
Yeah.
I listened to the records.
Sure.
I love the records. I listen to them all the time, but I never really sit down to learn these parts or anything. And I feel like, am I really a fan or not? Like, I confuse myself because I never learned any of the stuff. And everybody would assume that
you
I know
all of them
that I've already
front to back.
played
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, no, I've never played it before. I love that song. I've never played it
The
before.
feel and the groove, you just listen
Yeah,
to
it's
it so
just
much
weird.
that it's in
Yeah,
your core.
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
And I'm afraid in the style of person that I am that I probably would learn it like my own filtration system.
Yeah, your version.
Yeah, my own version.
Eddie's
of it.
version.
Yeah.
But it's funny because if I hear somebody else covering it, oh, they didn't do that part, or they didn't do this.
My favorite bass lick's not in
Yeah,
there.
now I'm pissed.
Oh, that's
because,
why I hate to do You Call Me Al, because we do the break. This is Ryan Munson on bass, and then everybody like looks at me like I should do that
the
bass,
reverse fretless
the reverse
thing.
fretless bass line.
Why haven't you figured that out yet?
Yeah.
I have figured it out.
Yeah.
So, and it's crazy
it's-
how
it's not-
like it's weird that I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, I'm okay with not playing it myself.
Yeah.
But if somebody else is going to cover it, damn it, they better play it
be perfect.
exactly.
Do it right.
I know.
That's how it
Yeah,
is.
well,
funny.
better do it right. What do you guys think about the fact that Rolling Stone compared the British band Asia's song "Heat of the Moment" to Africa? They
To Africa?
they said that they thought Africa was like almost like a rip off of that song, which that ticked the band off so bad, which I think is so funny. That feels so much to me like just them
Making stuff up.
just
this
writing off the band because they already had, so they're just like, we're gonna continue to like that's so. I think there are bands that you can make very obvious like, oh, these two things are like almost the same thing, but like
Interesting.
that's not.
Yeah, to me they're so different from each other.
Yeah, like
Heat of the Moment's a cool song.
I've
It's a
been
cool
reading
song.
some Chuck Klosterman, who's like, he's not a music critic in the sense of the
he's a
word
writer.
critic.
He's
a writer.
Yeah.
Reading him is a lot more entertaining than reading a music critic, especially as a musician. And in this moment, I'm feeling like they're just writing stuff to sell magazines. Right? They're just trying to do the hot takes that we do on podcasts.
I mean, remember that story
and
that
they're just like, they have the knee-jerk opinions in the heat of the moment.
On the 500
So
Songs
it's old
podcast.
School clickbait is what you're saying.
It's
Yeah,
exactly.
there you go.
And
It's
it's like they
rage
gotta
bait,
they
right.
gotta create a discourse, and they gotta create and
So that story on the 500 Songs podcast about Pinball Wizard, right, by
Yes.
The Who,
Yeah,
about how originally he was going to make the character of Tommy like a musician, right? That's
Mhm.
how he was going to have power and influence. But there was a writer that they wanted to give them for this record like a
That's
5-star
true. Yeah,
review,
yeah.
and he found out that guy was like really into pinball,
Hmm.
so he pivoted to make the song about
Tommy
pinball
the
to
Pinball Wizard.
include it in the record. And he was like, because when he first mentioned what they were working on, the guy was like, yeah, I don't know, sounds kind of, like
Mhm.
whatever. And then later when he mentioned that, like, yeah, I think he's going to be like a pinball player, that guy was like, oh, really? Like suddenly taking an
Interesting,
interest
yeah.
in that. Like, so you do kind of think about how
Yeah, that's wild.
critique, is still very personal taste, and then I think critique evolves. I think you have people that write critique about how something exists in its present moment, and then you have to be able to look back on it in a different light and different context. That's why we're doing this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like we
We're
look
looking
back
back.
at these records and try to see like what about it still holds up, and like what keeps bringing people back to, like, so when this as the story goes, like Weezer, of course, like covered Africa a few years ago, right? They did that because they got pestered online by this fan who kept asking them to cover it. And
Wow.
they finally gave in and were like, fine, we'll do it. And it was almost like they did it as kind of a joke, like we'll do
Yeah.
it, like,
Tongue in
but
cheek, like
yeah, like it's
this is
ironic,
ridiculous
right?
and
We know,
ironic.
everybody knows this song is silly, right?
Yeah.
And then that song's for them becomes one of their first charting songs in years.
Yeah.
And I guess there was a story, they're on a late night show, they're going to perform it, and they have, it's Payich that's with them, right? Or no,
I think so.
him, or I can't remember if it's him or Steve Porcaro,
I
but
don't remember.
one of the keyboardists is going to play it with them. And they said that when somebody came to tell River, like, Rivers Cuomo, how well the song was doing, they said he like winced, like, we're going to be stuck now doing Africa in every show forever.
Mhm.
And that's what Steve Lukather said, like, look,
It's like a bad case of herpes.
he said, like,
Just
it
when
will
you think
never
it's
go
gone,
away.
it just pops
That was
up.
his exact quote.
That's his exact quote.
That's
yeah.
funny.
He's like, you have to be, he's like, with a song like that, if you're going to tackle it, you've got to be ready for it to follow you for the rest of
Yeah.
your life, and like,
Yep.
but for them, they're like, that helped to push the resurgence of them being able to go back out
Yeah.
and tour again, like 40 years later,
And I
have
mean,
people show up.
I know I'm going to sound and probably get heat for this, but I did not like Weezer's version
No.
at all. Man. I was
Weezer
like,
hasn't.
oh,
Yeah, it
so-
was
Here's
mad.
another hot take. Weezer's not been good since like their maybe second album, and that they've never. Come on, they've
I've
not
never
been
listened to him,
relevant.
so
Yeah.
I'm going to stay out
But
of
I'm
just
saying
like,
it
I'm going
now.
to stay out of
as
this
soon,
debate.
yeah,
People
as
can
soon
come
as
at
the
me.
song started, like I could hear like this is not
They
going to
kinda
be
have
good.
that
But they're treating
Yeah.
it like
Yeah.
a joke.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is not going to be good.
Starcourt would never.
Never.
Would
That's
never.
why we don't. Real quick, I want to talk about the 83 Grammy Award. I can't figure out how the Grammys work because half of the stuff that they're on that's either nominated or they won, like came out in 81 and 82.
Sure.
And then it's an 83 Grammy Award. So
This
I
is
don't
similar.
know how this works. but
Yeah, like the Grammys are weird.
We'll
with
keep
like,
moving on.
When if a single is
One.
released, then that can be considered like for the Grammys. Like even if it's a year after the record came out,
Mm.
like so it is kind of a strange like the time frame that they
1,
consider
2,
them.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Is that how many Grammys
10,
they won?
11.
Ryan just wanted to count.
11 Grammys that they either won,
Or-
nominated, or tangentially related to.
Yeah, because they end up.
Because Marty Payich wins a Grammy this year in
Mhm.
83, was Payich's dad.
Mhm.
Rosanna won Record of the Year, or I think that's changed to Song of the Year now.
Yeah,
but Record
something
of the
like
Year.
that.
A TOTO 4 won Album of the Year.
Mhm.
A Best Instrumental Arrangement was Rosanna again. Lukather and Hungate won a Grammy for the Best Music Video of Olivia Newton-John's Physical.
Which was the
Which came
number
out in
one-
81.
number one song of like still
Yeah.
charting
Yeah.
Yep.
into like
They're-
huge.
Well,
So-
you realize if you were part of the album, you would get a
Yeah,
Grammy. too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But they're part of that album.
Well, and they got the
So,
producer of the year award too because they self-produced the record.
I'm getting there.
Oh, sorry.
Best R&B song, Lukather won for George Benson, Turn Your Love Around.
Mhm.
Because he wrote on piano, as you
Yep.
said, Eddie. Best female vocal pop is Melissa Manchester. I can't read my handwriting.
Yep.
You should hear how she talks about you. Jeff Porcaro did drums on that. Lukather played guitar on that. Ebony and Ivory, Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder, all TOTO played on that, and that was nominated in every category that TOTO was
Yeah,
nominated.
they're
in.
competing against themselves.
Yeah,
The
and
Night
they were
Fly
laughing
by-
about it the whole time.
Yeah. Night Fly by Don Fagen was nominated for an album. Well, they all played on that. Producer of the year was TOTO.
Jeff talked about that in that interview about how that was the record coming out that he just finished that solo record.
Yeah.
That's a good record.
I also want to know a future episode of the pod on Amy Grant. She won a record. She won Best Gospel Performance for Age to Age
Each day.
with a
Yeah, I
young
remember
Michael
that.
W. Smith.
This is
on
83?
keys. 83.
Wow.
It's her second album, third
Well,
album.
they say a friend's a friend forever.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're gonna be talking
Lord-
future podcast
Lord of them.
episodes on Amy Grant and Vince
Yeah,
Gill
dude.
and all those people.
So let's look at year-end. Let's look at the charts.
Yep,
we
this is
like
your-
to. We
this
always
is
like to
your-
talk about kind of what the charts look
I did
like.
my bit.
Like we said, Africa does it goes to number one. Is like has a long tail. So the top 10 though at the end of this year. So Physical by Olivia Newton-John was like the biggest song. It like just kept going.
Yes.
But was like ended this year at number one on the charts. Eye of the Tiger by Survivor is at number 2. I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett and the Black Hearts is number 3. That's a pretty solid 1, 2, 3 at the end of that year.
Yep.
As far as like kind of monolithic songs. Ebony and Ivory somehow is number 4.
Still in
Oh,
there.
man.
I mean, it's just because of who did it. It's
Yeah.
that song's
Two
so
big names. Yeah.
so bad, but it's you got Two Together. Centerfold by the Jay Giles Band is number 5. One of my personal favorites, Don't You Want Me by the Human League at number 6. Then you got John Cougar hanging out in there with 2. Jack and Diane is 7. Hurts So Good is 8. So
Wow.
He was pretty much the only guy in the 83 Grammy Awards who had nothing to do with the LA TOTO scene.
yeah, interesting.
Right? Like it had nothing like TOTO nobody in that
Yeah,
in Mellencamp's camp
Yeah.
were part of
in the Melon Camp.
They did in the Mellon. They didn't cross.
So Jeff Porcaro didn't like play Triangle or something
Correct.
anywhere on
Yeah.
the record, or
They didn't.
just
and
to
like
get
none of Jelen.
Yeah.
or maybe they did and it never got recorded. You
maybe.
don't know.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
They're probably all over.
I think
it.
they recorded somewhere else, but like Nashville or something.
Abracadabra by Steve Miller Band is there. One of my least favorite bands of all time, the Steve Miller Band. But people can enjoy it.
I don't know. It's got a vibe.
It's
to it.
fine. I don't like Steve
Reach out and
Miller.
grab
We'll
ya.
talk about that
They're
someday.
included in the yacht. They feel like they should be included in the yacht rock.
How
area.
so? I don't.
Yeah, tell
I
me.
disagree.
Fly like an eagle to the sea.
that
Like that
doesn't
feels
feel-
super yacht rock
Do,
to me.
do,
but-
do, do.
That doesn't feel.
Hey, you know what? We can
yachty to
disagree and
me.
still be friends.
Ryan's making his
Wow,
own yacht
barely.
rock documentary,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
going to be on there.
It's a smaller boat though.
It's a rowboat rock documentary. Hard to
You
say
know
I'm
that
sorry by
scene
Chicago.
in Pirates of the Caribbean when Johnny Depp is riding the boat down. And
Oh
he
yeah, and
steps
it's
right on the
sinking
dock.
us on the mast. Yeah,
That's my yacht rock.
that's his
boat.
yacht rock.
That's
it's,
my yacht.
It's slowly sinking.
What was that last one?
Hard to say I'm sorry by Chicago.
Oh,
rounds
I
out
love
the top
that
10.
song.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's a
man.
good one. And then I'm going to go just a little further just because Rosanna sits in the top 15. It ends at 14. So Rosanna is number 14. But you get Tainted Love by Soft Cells at 11.
Yeah.
The Chariots of Fire theme was hanging out in the
Wow.
top 15.
Yes.
Heart in My Heart by Quarter Flash.
So good.
So that's one of my
Guys who
favorite.
engineered one of the guy who engineered Toto's album is on the Chariots of Fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then right after Rosanna
Tidbit.
15 is I Can't Go For That. Hall &
Hall
Oates.
& Oates,
Yeah,
yeah.
Hall & Oates.
Man,
That's
but
year
when
end.
you
So
when
they
you
don't make the
listen,
year
when
end,
you
like,
hear all those
Not the top 10.
songs and you think back on them, how good the music was.
So good. Pros at every.
I mean, that's a
part of
pretty,
it.
like that top 15 is pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is
So good.
Rosanna, remember. So because Africa's not going to hit
Till 84.
for another year till like 83. This is 82.
Mm-hmm.
But the record finishes the year at 41 on the album charts. The top 10 there are Asia. By Asia is number 1, kind of the super group of the moment.
Yep.
The Go-Go's Beauty and the Beat is number 2. Foreigner, also with an album called 4.
4, which is a great record.
Yep.
So that they're at number 3. John Mellencamp with American Fool at number 4. Jay Giles Band's record hits at number 5, which is kind of wild. Like off just the strength of that
Yeah.
song, basically. Journey's Escape is at number 6.
That a great record.
Yeah, we'll talk about that
We'll talk about
in
Journey.
the
Yep.
future. Loverboy, Get Lucky is number 7. Stevie Nicks with Belladonna is number 8. And then,
Which
of
the
course,
guys are all over that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Vangelis,
all
Chariots
over
of
that.
Fire soundtrack is the number 10 record at the end of the year,
Wow.
which is pretty wild.
Yeah.
And then, Ghost in the
Dun,
Machine,
dun,
The
dun,
Police
dun,
at
dun.
number 10, sitting there
Cool.
with a couple really big hits off of that record too, which
Yeah.
we'll talk
Funny,
about in the future.
my daughter had mentioned that how it's not a thing anymore where, the songs that were written for movies become huge and sometimes even bigger than the movie itself,
Yeah.
and
Frozen?
it's like, that's
Well, no, this is then, right? Like the fact that, maybe like post like when Star Wars had like a million disco remixes,
Yeah.
after that, but like, the soundtrack for Chariots
like
of
when
Fire
you
in the
and like
top
when you
10.
think of like Arthur's theme, the Christopher Cross, the best you can do.
Oh yeah, yes.
When you get lost in New York City, that one.
I'm
It's
scared
just
of
like-
doing that album.
it's
I'm gonna
just
be
like-
crying the whole time.
Yeah, and when you're just like, I don't know if I ever saw Arthur the movie.
Sure, but you know the song.
But the song,
Yeah.
oh man,
So,
yeah, love that song. Great,
not
it's
a-
just
crazy.
I don't know if
stuff like that.
I don't.
Like Caddyshack
Hot
was
take.
another
I'm
one
gonna
that didn't.
disagree with
Yeah.
you.
It was kind of not a sleeper back then,
Oh, sure.
but
I got you now.
the songs that came from wasn't that Kenny Loggins
Footloose.
that did Caddyshack
not-
stuff?
I think so. But Footloose is from that.
from
Kenny Loggins.
Yeah.
from
Is that kind of
Footloose.
what you're talking about, where a band does a song for a movie?
But yes, the song "I'm All Right," right, is the one you're thinking of. Yep, like Kenny
Alright.
Loggins and Bruce
Huey Lewis
Slotnick,
and the
yeah.
News, Power of Love.
Yeah,
yeah,
Footloose.
where they wrote
Kenny
stuff
Loggins.
for movies.
Yep.
And then
But
that
the songs
song
live
charted.
just, and they keep
Yeah,
going. And the
okay.
movies maybe
You're
didn't hit
not,
as good.
She's not talking about like Frozen, like Let It Go from Frozen.
No,
where it
not
was
like a musical, a
specific
Disney
musical
movie.
song in the
Mm.
movie. Okay.
Yeah,
And
Yeah, I will agree with that actually.
Yeah,
now that we
it's
figured
interesting.
that out, and I've made that distinction in my head. I will say, yeah, that's not a thing anymore.
Ryan, do you want to know what ended at number 11, just out of the top 10 in 82?
The way you're saying that and looking at
Take
me
a guess.
is it's going to be my arch nemesis, the Rolling Stones.
It is with Tattoo You. Yeah,
That deserves an F word right there.
there they are.
I will bleep
Sitting-
that
they're
out
just
so we
looming.
can get rid of the explicit.
I'm like looking at the
content
top
rating.
10 here, and it's just looming it's right there at 11, which is pretty good.
I hate, with a burning passion in my soul, the Rolling Stones.
yeah.
I hate them. The
don't
more
hate
the
them, but
more I find out
we do
about
have-
them and what
Yeah,
assholes and just crazy dudes they were, and just rapists.
Ryan, with
and
all that
druggists.
hate, what
gotta
kind
let
of
it out,
world
man.
are we leaving behind for
A love for
one
Toto.
where people listen to less
For
of the Rolling
Keith
Stones.
Richards.
Yeah, who will still be here long after
Yes.
all of us. He's going to be more machine than man at that point, but he's still going to outlive us all.
He's like Darth
What
Vader.
Yeah.
kind
I
of
mean,
world are
just-
we leaving behind?
Well,
for Keith
hopefully one that
Richards?
loves Toto and loves more of the records we're talking about.
Yeah.
I really wanted to talk closing segments. I really wanted to talk about this album because we get to the LA scene a little bit. We get to, in any future album that we're going to be talking about from this time period in this area is going to have them on. And so we need to know who these guys are.
Yeah, they're going to be pretty
they're
pillars of
they're
that
here
scene.
and-
And
Yep. And Jeff wrote Toto on their tapes, just to keep a placeholder basically.
Mhm.
And it got turned
Just-
into the record company
what a
that
great-
way. And
That's funny. Yeah.
And I do love, like them saying, whoa, it's part of a Latin word that means like the total of everything, which
Sure,
incorporates
yeah, sure,
our
dude.
influences. And it's like, BS, man, you
Yeah.
made that up.
yeah.
Yep. Just embrace the
pretty good.
nerdiness, man.
Yeah.
Just embrace it.
Big nerds. But yeah, I think we did it. I mean, it's Toto 4.
Oof.
Go listen to it front to back and let us
It's
know
hard doing
what your favorites are.
It's hard doing a band that doesn't have like a tell-all documentary. Like
Sure.
Billy Joel just had, and So It Goes, this 8-hour documentary about him, and it's really good. But it tells his whole life story, and so we kind of were just like, hey, if you want to know his history, just watch that.
Go watch.
Yeah.
But for Toto, there's nothing really like
Yeah.
that, you know.
I know
So it's hard
so much.
to be like, okay, I got 3,800 words, and
Yeah.
that's an hour if I just read it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not an hour, but You get the
Yeah.
point.
They were
Yes.
involved in so much.
Yeah. It's hard to estimate the impact that they had because
Especially
it's
for like
so
being
rad.
the band that Steve Lukather says might be the most critically reviled band of all time. They're like, this is a good record. I
Yeah,
like it.
I love
think
it.
it stands as a kind of a like just a great and I guess that's the question. Do you feel like listening to it now, like things about it, does it feel just like a product of its time? Is Africa kind of just, or does it feel like it holds up for for listeners to go back and like discover? Again, there's songs that snuck up on me that I was like, oh, like you can hear so much of what influences. Even like I'm listening to like Waiting on Your Love, that song, and I'm like, like I think Mac DeMarco is a fan of like this song Toto. You know what I mean? Or like
whole thing.
yeah,
just
like
off of that song.
absolutely. Or like
Such a great-
the piano parts on Hold You Back, like they remind me of a lot of the stuff that like what Daft Punk was trying to do on Random Access Memories. Like it's all right there, and knowing that all these players played on everything else in this time period, it's like, well, no wonder that like that influences so much to come.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Eddie.
Yes, thank
Oh
you.
wait,
Thank you guys.
what
What a
was
joy
with
to
your
talk to
question? Sorry,
you
had a question. That
I
we
was just
skipped
saying,
over.
like, if you guys want to answer, do you feel like it holds up and you go back and listen to it today?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not like a big ballad dude, as I've said. So once we get to Waiting for Your Love, it's like, oh, thank God, this is so.
Come on, Ryan.
Oh,
So good.
it's so. I mean, but it's also good. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I still think it holds up.
Can I tell you last like closing thing?
Better make it quick.
It's really good.
Goose is about to.
If our
crazy.
listeners want to find one of the funniest like sort of cultural like influences of like Africa and its long-reaching like the ways, listen to like just especially the opening like drum loops and synth parts before like the song really gets going in Africa, especially the right. Then go listen to the end of the main like theme from the video game Donkey Kong Country from 1994. You can tell that composer was like, I know what the jungle should sound like, and it was like, bam, copy paste.
Yep.
It's right there.
And like I said, Japan loves Toto.
Yeah.
Every album was big.
There's a
there.
couple singles that like they only released in Japan because they knew like it's gonna do well in that market. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
Thanks,
Dude,
Eddie.
thanks for coming,
it's been a
man.
pleasure. Come back and talk about Fahrenheit sometime.
Yes.
We'll dig in. We'll do
There's good stuff.
we talk
on
about the
Fahrenheit.
rise of Toto. We'll talk about the disintegration
Goose.
of Toto.
Yeah.
And that was Joseph's first record.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So he had big shoes to fill with,
Yeah.
Bobby not being there anymore.
Yep. Come in and talk about Nepo babies
Yep.
coming in and taking over.
Yep.
Man. Well, thanks for listening. This has been Your Dad's Record Collection and 80s Album Retrospective. Please
We need like a cool.
listen, subscribe.
We need like a production company name,
I know.
not Toto.
Okay, we'll come up
But,
with
like,
something. We'll write it on
this
the
has
tapes
been a
and turn it into
production
the studio.
of the Stewed.
The goose is loose.
Also,
the Goose is Loose production.
theme music produced and composed by Max Harnisch-Feger.
Yeah,
Thanks,
we
Max.
didn't say that last
We've been
time.
trying to shout that out. And
We're so excited.
love it. Go like and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. Send us a message if you have any corrections, if we had anything we forgot to say, or you've got a cool Toto story, or you did Africa karaoke at a bar somewhere and it went off. Let us know. We'd love to hear about it.
ydrcpodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks. Bye.